Okay, well, it's 7:01. Do you know if Peter's on yet?
I don't know if it's-
Anyway, we'll start the meeting. Any additions to the agenda? If not, can we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Judy? Okay, any discussion on Judy's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Should come up on your
Well-
screen, I think.
Yeah, we'll try to send it out first. or-
Yeah, we'll try and send it up, sorry. I apologize, folks. Okay, so now you just either for or against, you can't abstain even though it's there. So has everybody got it?
No.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, so the ones that can vote, and the other ones, I apologize for that. We're having some issues, so.
First time with the machine.
So, those in favor, I guess that, so Will and Cole and Richard, then, thank you. They're all in favor, Karen. Okay, so Karen will load it up for us. If it comes here, well, maybe it'll come up the next time, we'll see. But she put it in for you, but we'll try it the next time around, so.
Okay.
It's carried unanimously.
Yeah, yours might not. I'll have to be-
Okay, so we'll go on to the minutes of the October the 12th, 2021. I appreciate, you folks, most of you weren't here, but still, somebody can move it. Lyle moves it. And unfortunately, you're requested to vote on it. Is there any discussion on anything that comes up on the minutes? Okay, any discussion on Lyle's motion to accept this? Hearing none, I'll call the question. So hopefully it'll pop up.
Sorry, the motion, I put it in the wrong spot. I will move it.
Okay. So it should come up. Now, did it come up for you guys? It says that the minutes of,
The minute.
Yeah, yours has got some issues. Sure that was all.
so you're gonna redo that motion then, Karen?
I am.
Oh, okay, so if it came up, you can get rid of it. And then,
I just put it in the wrong box.
so you can generate it then, or?
It's good when it works.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing. 90% of the time it does work good. Of course, today,
We all have brand new machines today, so.
So did anyone get it?
no.
I did.
You got it again, the second time?
No.
Oh, yeah, so she should have
You just
resent it.
gonna resend it out, Karen?
Okay.
There we go.
I didn't get it this time.
You got a green check
Does
mark?
it, like, does it just pop up in the middle of the screen?
Yeah. it
Yeah, it
does.
should.
Okay,
That's
so,
for voting, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
and then it'll say,
Yeah, yours, Cole, I'm pretty sure you're not gonna get.
okay, so the ones that can vote online, vote online. The ones that can't vote, which is Will and Richard and Cole and myself now,
Just
are
raise
you
your
in
hand.
favor? So it's carried, there, now it just popped up, and it says that it's carried unanimously, so you see that?
It is.
But again, it'll come up,
It's just loading, that's all.
oh, yeah, it'll come up at the bottom, and it'll say, for, against, or abstain. You can't abstain, unfortunately, so anyway, it's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is the organizational meeting. Now, at that, on these minutes, there was a question that Councillor DeVoe asked about the motions. And there was questions and concerns about the way the motions are generated. So if you don't like if you want to make a motion on a item, but you don't like the way it was generated, just say that I move it and say it the way you'd like it to read.
Okay.
There are some things in a motion that have to be there, like as an example, where's the money gonna come from, or who's gonna manage the project or whatever. So again, if you kind of miss that and we question you on that, that you didn't put that in, we might have to just add that to your motion. So, but again, if you don't like the way the motions are generated, it's not a big deal. You can do it, the motion the way ever you want it to be done. And then, but sometimes we'll have to alter them to make them so that they meet the rules. So Richard asked that question, and I did talk to him the next day about it. But I just wanted everybody to know that just because we generate a motion doesn't mean that that's the way the motion has to be. Okay, any other questions or comments on the organizational meeting? No.
It says organizational meeting minutes October 8th, 2021, and then organizational meeting October 25th. Should that October 8th should have read October 25th?
It should.
On the, where did you get the October 20?
3.2.
But mine says October 25th on mine. Yeah.
Minus
In
one.
the-
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Oh,
In
farther
the
up.
back.
Yeah, oh, I see. I was reading the new stuff, sorry. Oh, I apologize. Okay, yeah, okay. So we'll correct that. Yeah, the minutes are right. It's just the
The heading on.
The heading on
the insert.
insert. I see where that was. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Okay, if not, will somebody move? Okay, Barb moves. Okay, any discussion on Barb's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question, and so hopefully it'll pop up. Did it come up for you guys yet?
No.
See-
It says loading, but there's,
Oh,
Yeah,
See,
nearly worked.
it doesn't do anything besides
Yeah.
say loading.
so.
It didn't come up for me this time.
Okay, so we got some gremlins, so if it didn't come up for you, are you in favor of the motion? Okay, seeing nobody's opposed, we'll declare it as carried unanimously. We'll have to get these gremlins out, but sorry about that, folks.
I have a quick question. It's saying loading again, but it's just sitting there with an X. It's just blank. Should we just exit? 'Cause
Yeah,
I've
just-
exited
just
a few
exit out.
times, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, it doesn't like our new
Yeah.
iPads for it at the moment, so. Okay, so moving on to, there's no public hearing, delegations is, you know, Peter's there.
I will bring him up right now.
Okay, so he'll come up on the screen here, if he's on.
Peter, are you on now?
Just got love. Oh, there, hopefully.
Good evening, Peter. Can you hear us?
Are you muted?
Looks like he's.
Can you hear me?
We can, Peter.
Okie dokie. Just trying to see, this is a new platform for me.
Oh.
There you go, now we can see you.
Now we can see you.
Excellent. How are you doing tonight?
Great, thank you.
So I just gotta turn off the stream of the meeting here. I can hear you, sir.
Peter, for your presentation, I can shorten your video and then I can actually put your presentation up on the board if you'd like, on the smart board here in front of us.
No, that's perfect. And Mr. Mayor, how much time would you like me to take tonight?
2 minutes. Oh, you have 15.
Okie dokie. I like to talk, so it's always a good question. How many new members of council do we have this time around?
We have 4 new, well, really, 4 new ones and 1 previously, but I'm not sure, Judy, if you were involved in SouthGrow at all when.
I was.
Okay, so, yeah, there's 3 of us that know a little bit about SouthGrow, and the other 4 are relatively new.
Awesome. Well, lots of new faces. That's great. Thank you for allowing me to attend virtually tonight. It's actually not COVID. I have a daughter who has dance classes on Monday nights, and we also happen to get the daycare play. So everybody in my house has got a nasty chest cold, not COVID, but there it is. I look forward to when I can meet you all in person and attend in person in council again. So my name is Peter Casurella. I'm the Executive Director of the SouthGrow Regional Initiative. And I'm bringing a report to you. I try to get out to 50% of our member communities every year to to give a direct report to council. I work for you and the 30-member municipalities of the SouthGrow Regional Initiative. We just added the county of 40 miles, so I think SouthGrow is the largest it's ever been at this point in time. So what is SouthGrow, for those of you who are new? We're one of 9 regional economic development alliances that exist in the province of Alberta. My office is headquartered out of my house right now, but normally out of Picture Butte, right down here close to Lethbridge. And I serve a geographical area that roughly covers the footprints of Vulcan County, the MD of Tabor, now the county of 40 Mile, Carson County, Warner County, Lethbridge County, and the Blood Tribe. And we've got a couple of communities that are outside of that, those boundaries as well. We've been active since 2003 when we were first incorporated. The history of regional economic development has been quite the ups and downs over the years. They were first started off by the government of Alberta as an experiment in regionalism, seeing the handwriting on the wall at the time that regional collaboration was going to be important, and that there was a lot of things in the world of economic development that superseded the mandates of individual municipalities and were things that towns needed to work together on for their shared interests. We operate under the premise and the assumption that the economy is regional. There's not a dollar in rural Alberta that isn't spent in one of the towns or villages or in the city of Lethbridge itself off of every single paycheck. And the money flows back and forth, and you can't divide that. The economy of the town of Vulcan is inextricably linked to the economy of the wider region, to the county, to the villages around you, and the money flows back and forward. So initiatives that benefit the economy in general benefit all of our communities. We've always operated under the assumption that's what's good for one is good for all too, and we celebrate the wins of our fellow municipalities. And of course, one of the ethics that I always try to drive home to administrations and to the folks that I work with is the second best thing to a win directly in your town, to landing a new business or supporting a business or getting a new industrial operation. The second best thing to that is getting it in the community right next to yours. Because your people will go and work there at that business, and they'll bring that paycheck home, they'll spend it in your community, and will help everybody. In 2011, after the solid decade underneath the purview of the government of Alberta, the Regional Economic Development Alliances were kicked out to the municipalities. They were birthed, so to speak. There were originally 15 REDAs that the government tried to set up. Some of them just didn't take in corners of the province because the municipalities couldn't cooperate together. A solid 12 of them took, and over the years, 3 more have folded for various reasons, including being too close to Calgary and Edmonton. And today there are 9 that are very vibrant organizations that represent about 250 communities across the province of Alberta. And we are healthy and strong and doing good. If you can go down another slide there.
To your mission statement?
Yeah, so there's a mission statement. You can just go past that, sir.
Okay.
There's a boilerplate slide about accomplishments over the years. You can skip past that to the 2020-2021. This slide is an update of everything that we got up to over the past fiscal year. So in the 2020-21 year, it was a very interesting year as we all lived through. I had this beautiful operational plan all queued up at the beginning of our fiscal year in April of that year, which we promptly kind of tossed out the window because COVID came along. We were fortunate to have strong alliances with friends in, for instance, the city of Lethbridge, and we were part of a regional economic recovery task force. SouthGrow put up money, the city put up money, and we all worked to support business owners across the entire region, making sure they had access to the latest information on what supports were available, had access to the applications and assistance with those, and also had access to experts, whether it was lawyers or financiers or insolvencies trustees. Anybody throughout the entire region could pick up the phone and call somebody that we had available to talk to an expert on the particular problems they were facing, or to just get help with navigating the government paperwork to get the supports that they needed. 25% of the calls that came in through that were from the SouthGrow region as part of our group, and it was a service that wouldn't have been available otherwise. I'm happy to talk about any of the other things that are on that list. For the interest of time, we'll skip on, and we'll talk more about the work that we're doing today. You want to move down the slide? So this is a list about projects that we've done over the years, projects that are informing investments. So when I talk about the kind of work that SouthGrow does, we don't do community economic development of the kind that you might be familiar with. My job is not to get another business to land in your town. My job isn't to support your local business owners or to do classic business retention and expansion work. The work that SouthGrow does, because we're a small organization that represents a big group of people, is we do things that enable opportunities for all of our members if possible. So the top thing that's highlighted there is a great example. Almost every SouthGrow community is a Fortis franchise holder. That means your electrical infrastructure and the poles that are available in your town are owned by a company called Fortis. Now, Fortis is notoriously hard to work with, particularly when it comes to, rejuvenating the infrastructure that you have, or repurposing things, or getting new infrastructure for new things that you're trying to do in your town. So we started working on Fortis about 3 years ago, saying, hey, listen, it sucks to work with you guys, but you hold a lot of the cards, and we really, really need to be able to work with you better. And we opened that dialogue, and it's progressed over the years, and we really focused on a conversation that we all had a lot of mutual interest in, which is broadband. How do we get wireless infrastructure put on your poles? Because right now, you're missing a business opportunity, because we're just going around you. All of our ISPs refuse to deal with you. So they did some work on their end, they improved the regulatory process, they lowered the cost substantially, and they came back to us saying, okay, listen, we think we've got some customer solutions in place that will work. Can we pilot these with you? So we said yes. So SouthGrow broke with a deal between Fortis and Milk River. I was down at a meeting in Milk River today where they were setting up the final contracts. We've done a pilot project right now with a new customer solutions team to show that they can respond to our needs in the timelines that we need in order to deliver projects. They've got a process and a team in place to work with municipalities that should make it much, much, much easier to do the kind of work you need to do, whether it's dealing with phase 3 towers or pole replacements or broadband deployments, etc. The pilot's going well, and we're going to roll it out to all of the municipalities in SouthGrow. Everybody will benefit from it. That's an example. Another example is all the work that we've done on renewable energy. Just a few down there to highlight one renewable energy impact report. So SouthGrow has been working to promote renewable energy development in Southern Alberta since 2007, when we set up a group along with Economic Development Lethbridge and Alberta Southwest, which is another RETA that runs along the mountain corridor beside us. The people back then and the board members back then saw that oil was leaving Southern Alberta and that renewable energy was going to be big business. And we started marketing and doing research and doing education and promoting investments. And today we see the fruits of that labor happening. Billions of dollars in investment are getting dumped right into Southern Alberta, into the county around you. And of course, nobody's going to build a wind farm or a solar farm in Vulcan, although you guys have a smaller area, as we all know. But the amount of investment going into the county around you pours money into the region, which helps fuel economic prosperity. And as we keep on going and building more of these projects, just like the North became a hotbed of innovation in the oil sector for decades, the South can become a hotbed of innovation in servicing industries and new technology in renewables when we get enough projects going on here. I'm happy to report that right now, there's $20 billion with capital projects in solar, wind, and battery storage being applied for in the province of Alberta. It's over 16,000 megawatts. The majority of it is down south, below Calgary here. That's as much generating capacity as the entire generating capacity of the province of Alberta currently has from all sources. It's a massive opportunity. So what we're working on right now is we're working with the provincial government and a group of academics and industry people out of Calgary to help move the needle on the regulatory environment so that it's easier for people to build new projects that will go into Southern Alberta so that there's more money in our regional economy to benefit towns like Falcon and the communities that surround you. Yeah, some examples. Let's move on to the next slide. That's a summary of our last strategic plan. The key lesson to learn here is I started 3.5 years ago, and we built a 3-year operating plan, basically, 3-year strategic plan. We quickly learned that it was a fool's errand to try to do 3-year plans in the current environment that we're in. So now we have a new strategic framework that we crafted last spring, and we're just doing 1-year operating plans at a time, taking on targets of opportunity, reassessing each year, and going from there. Next slide is our current operational plan, which is 2021 to 2022 at the top there. A few things to note that we're working on currently this year. So, you have a lot of new councillors. We're going to be offering a training course in January. It's either going to be January the 20th or 21st, we're just negotiating that, which is called Economic Development for Elected Officials. It's a course run by the Economic Developers Alberta, which is the professional association I belong to, and it's an amazing course specifically for you, the elected official, to teach you what economic development is, but also, and more importantly, what is your role to enable economic development in your community as an elected official, as a steward of public money, as the person who's accountable ultimately to the taxpayer. How do you fit into the picture? And then how can you help to turn on the taps in your community to drive forward those projects that you really care about. So watch for more information on that coming out. I've already touched on the Southern Alberta Alternative Energy Partnership, which is our alternative energy work. We're also working to market Southern Alberta right now, and this is something your friends at the county are really involved in. It impacts you directly because, you know, with a big industrial park going in right next door, it's going to be people who live in your community who get those jobs and bring those paychecks home. So Vulcan County is invested, along with a few of the larger communities throughout the region, in a global marketing initiative. We built the media marketing campaign, where right now we put in our application to Can Export to try to double our money, so we've got more money to drive the marketing campaign. And we're going to be launching it here in the spring, targeting directly agri-food companies who are looking at possibly expanding into Southern Alberta to help raise the profile of the region, work that nobody else has a mandate to do aside from us. Tourism, of course, is something we care deeply about. We have a lot of tourism assets. Nobody's doing this work for us. The collapse of the Canadian Badlands was long in coming, but it's left a definite void. Nobody is advancing the conversation on tourism in Southern Alberta. We've got a stopgap in place. The region, through SouthGrow, has paid Lethbridge Tourism to develop tourism products and tourism routes and to promote the region generally, but they don't have a mandate to keep doing this kind of work, and eventually we need to find a solution, something we're scratching our heads on at SouthGrow right now. And of course, you may have heard about the Terragraph project that we're working on to get the villages around you in Vulcan County fully up to speed. So you're lucky to have really good internet access available right there in the town. But all of the villages around you in Vulcan County do not. Last year, we piloted a new technology based in Israel called Terragraph technology from a company named Siglu. They claimed they could deliver fiber-like speeds over wireless services. It sounded too good to be true. We put in some money along with the Milk River Cable Club, bought a few of these units, and we put them to the test. And hey, they delivered. It was crazy. So then we applied for a grant from the government of Canada in order to do a pilot for the entire town. We got the grant. The pilot's being built out right now as part of that Fortis project I told you about, the two things putting together into one. And so now we have two shovel-ready projects that we're trying to get some funding from the government of Canada. One, to build out the 5 villages of Vulcan County and 2 hamlets from the county, as well as some remaining communities that are down along the Highway 4 corridor with this new technology. And when we get this done, all of the small urban stroke, the entire SouthGrow region will have fiber-like speeds, whether from wireless or fiber in the ground. And of course, we've got work going on the county side to make sure that our rural residents are well serviced too. I'll skip on from there. I can answer questions, but anything you see on there that might catch your interest. I've talked about most of those projects, and we'll just keep skipping. This year's challenges, that slide there. So at the September meeting, the board voted to increase the per capita levy that we asked from our members from 50 cents per capita to $1. It's still one of the lowest per capitas that people pay throughout the region. Now, one of the reasons why, well, the reason that this was a thing that we needed to do is that we used to get $100,000 a year from the government of Alberta in order to help fund the operations of SouthGrow. And after the last election, the United Conservative Party put us on notice that we were going to have all of our funding taken. All of the rural communities, through the AUMA and through the Rcmp as well, raised a really, really big stake about this. And we managed to reduce that cut to just 50%. But we still lost $50,000 a year. Now, SouthGrow's been pretty healthy financially, and so the board decided for the last 2 years to just keep funding our operations out of reserves. So we've been taking $50,000 a year out of reserves to keep bowling, to keep pushing forward the projects that are important to us. However, we came to the realization this year we can't keep doing this. At some point, we need to either find another way to do things, to either reduce the scope of work we're doing, or to go back to our members and ask for an increase. And so at the September meeting, after a committee working on the problem all summer and exploring different ways, the board put it a vote to double the per capita to replace the missing operational funding that we've had flowing in. And we're also going back to lobby the government again to say, listen, this is all we're doing. This is the massive amount of value you're getting for your investment. Please reinvest in rural economic development. It's the time. Rural Alberta has tons of opportunities, and you're missing the boat on this. Of course, new councils, we've got a lot of work to do to bring everybody up to speed. Thrilled to have you on board. There's, I'm sure you guys' heads are already spinning with how much you've had to learn from all the different committees and information that's needed to absorb. You're sacrificing your commitments to public services. Amazing. I don't think I can do it at all. And of course, the big opportunity and one of the risks right now is that there's a ton of stimulus funding out there to take. And there is limited capacity either in SouthGrow or in our communities to grab it because everybody seems to be so overworked and stretched thin. Next slide. This is a list of projects that have either a direct or indirect impact on the town of Vulcan specifically. I'd be happy to talk about any of these things individually. I'll highlight the Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program. SouthGrow, along with the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, we're one of 2 organizations in Alberta that apply to administer an infrastructure program for Natural Resources Canada. We've been awarded $2 million to distribute across the region towards EV charging infrastructure. The town of Vulcan put in a letter of support when we put this in last year. The program was supposed to start in April, but federal government, we finally have a signed contract in place. We'll be rolling that out in the next few weeks here. So you can get up to $100,000 in matching funding towards infrastructure development within your town. And I'll be sending Kim much more information on that shortly. The next slide there is just a value proposition. I just talked about it, doubling of the per capita. So what are you getting for your dollar? There are some projects that I can actually put dollars to. These are real projects that are happening right now, and they would not be happening without SouthGrow doing them. If we didn't exist, these projects would not be happening for the region, such as the regional marketing project that directly impacts you, the Telegraph project, which is bringing the villages in your county up to speed with you, and the Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program, tourism collaboration work. We've successfully got a grant for an EV bus pilot on the Highway 4 route. The opportunity is going to be rolled out to all of the spokes of the SouthGrow Reel. So if you want to explore getting upgrading your local handybus to a state-of-the-art modern electric bus, there's up to 80% funding available right now for that, and we can help you guys go after that along with your nonprofit associations. And of course, not to mention all of the partnerships that exist throughout Southern Alberta, of which I can talk about all of those if you like, that would not exist without SouthGrow. And I'll skip down 2 slides to opportunities and goals. So opportunities that are available for the town of Vulcan. Number 1, it really strongly behooves you to support the work that's happening in Vulcan County around you on the renewable energy front. This is the gold rush of our time. It is a massive opportunity. This is akin to when they were starting to drill natural gas wells all across Southern Alberta. And support done by your council to further regulatory work at the level of Edmonton that enables more projects to go into Vulcan County around you will directly impact and benefit people in your town. It's a huge amount of money, and it'll make it life much more sustainable in your neck of the woods and prosperous as well. Municipal energy management. So there's a ton of new technologies, and there's also a lot of grants available right now for improving the efficiency of your municipal buildings. This speaks directly to your bottom line, Kim. I'd be happy to talk to you about this in detail, about all the different things that are available that you can chase. No doubt you've already heard a lot of them. I've been involved with the Municipal Energy Management Program, and it is eye-opening the amount of money that can be saved by taking advantage of the money on the table right. Of course, ag servicing industries is always an important thing to chase. Industrial land development, making sure that your friends in the county who are putting out the money to develop that world-class industrial park just south of you is a big thing. I'm serious when I say that industrial park is going to do extremely well for itself. They sized it right, they sized the services right, no doubt they've dealt with you to make sure that they have the utilities and infrastructure available. And it is one of, oh, Kim shaking his head back and forth.
We're working on it.
Working on it. Either way, any support you can give to make sure that thing is a success, because it is one of very, very few industrial parks that has the capacity to actually attract the kind of facilities that are really looking at a region right now that could potentially host things like beef fractionation facilities or other kinds of protein processing facilities which are in high demand. And Vulcan particularly has an advantage because you are right in the middle of the LOB Class 2 country, which is particularly attractive in this industry at this time. Event tourism growth. I've always been a fan of Spot Days. I think it has massive brand appeal. People in Calgary are a captive market more now than they ever have been. There's 1.5 million people just up the road from you who are begging for opportunities, and I think that Aspen Crossing has shown that they want what we have. They want the experiences we have to offer, and Vulcan is a short drive away, and the mountains are full. And of course, well, I've mentioned urban fringe partnerships. the more the town can leverage the fact that you have utilities and capacity with your utilities to assist the county in development of cheap fringe land is just a match made in heaven. Of course, there's always service sharing too, but I've gone on for a long time. I am sure I'm over my time. I can answer questions about anything you've mentioned here. I apologize again for sounding hoarse.
Great, thank you very much, Peter. Is there any questions from any of the councillors? Again, like you said, there's quite a bit of information here, and I'm sure that as time goes on, we'll have more questions and thoughts. And I know Lori, I'm not sure if Lori got back on to your group for the county or not, but Lori Dickman from the county, did she get back on, do you know, or?
She did, yeah, she was acclaimed.
Okay,
So,
no, but I mean, did she get appointed to SouthGrow, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay, great,
So
thank you.
Lori is one of my 2 surviving executive committee members. She's absolutely essential.
Okay, great,
So I've got an executive committee of 5, and 3 of them did not get back on because they ran for mayor. So Jim and Lori are SouthGrow in effect right now. They're
okay,
the 2 with signing authority.
great, thank you. Councillor DeVolt has a question for you.
Peter, you mentioned the energy efficient buses, like the handy bus and things like that. Am I assuming that's right? Can groups like the Lions apply for that as well? Or is it just that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually started working on this project 2 years ago, and it took us 2 years to get a grant from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And in the last 2 months, a new grant came out from Infrastructure Canada, which is also 80% matching, and it's a lot more accessible.
Okay.
Yes, the Lions in conjunction with the town, we just have to look at it and make sure we got the right structure. That's the most successful. If we can bring on a few more other communities or other community groups who also would be partnering on it, the more partnerships, the better, and the more chance of having success we have in the grant application. But the nice thing is we've done all the legwork. We've got mountains of documentation that would be needed to support an application, which we can show.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Again, I'm sure that as questions arise, we'll be able to get in contact with you folks or Lori or Jim, and I know Jim speaks very highly of SouthGrow every time he gets an opportunity at Mayors and Reeves, and so it's been very well known in that circle anyways.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending, and we will be in touch. We have a member appointed, so as soon as you guys start having meetings, we'll have somebody there for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. I look forward to seeing you all in person, hopefully in the near future.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks.
Glad the platform worked for you.
Sorry?
And glad the platform worked for you, so.
Okay.
Okay.
See you later.
Great.
Takes that out. So
Great.
we'll do-
Thank you very much for listening to his presentation. Again, like I said, this is Jim Willett. He's the chairperson. He is a very strong advocate of SouthGrow, and every chance he gets, he lets us know all about what's going on. So Kim will just get ready for the next presentation from FCSS. Yes.
Can we, request information about the industrial park? I don't know anything about it.
Not yet. I mean, I think once the county has more details on what will be filled in on it.
Where would you like us?
Well, Kim will let you stand there if you'd like. 'Cause I mean,
You could either stand here and tap the door, board and address council, or you could stand right there, and when you want the slides to move, just let me know and I'll move them along. Yeah, if that works for you.
I think we'll sit. So we just have to tell you the next slide.
Yeah, you bet.
okay, so the floor is yours.
Probably don't need a lot of introduction. I don't know how many of your faces I know, but quite a few, and most of you know Lloyd. I'm Joan Petersen, I'm the Executive Director at Vulcan and Region SCSS, and also the Food Bank. And also I'm the Director of the Rural Development Network's Viable Homelessness Project for the town.
And I'm Laura Gear, and I'm the Community Liaison for Vulcan and Region Family and Community Support Services.
You often hear that people don't know we exist or even what we do. So the town of Vulcan signed their first agreement with the province of Alberta with FCSS October 27th of 1987. So we've been here for a while. We figured we'd better get out and present what we do. In the past, our council representative was very knowledgeable about the services we provide, but she was just one person. And our intent with this presentation is to inform the entire council and answer any questions that you may have. Hopefully we have time at the end. We might talk too much.
So next slide. So the purpose of FCSS primarily is preventative social services. Money spent on prevention has been shown in studies to be $1 invested in prevention can save $7 in further intervention and services down the line. Whether that's through health or school interventions or a number of homelessness interventions, any of those sorts of things. If we can create healthy communities, we can save money down the line in the rest of our funded programs. We look at sustaining individuals, community, youth, and making communities healthy altogether. People who are lonely and isolated, studies have shown that loneliness and isolation is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Even Alberta Health Services has presented on the #1 factor that people are admitted and stay in hospital is based on loneliness. So a big part of what we do is trying to connect people with community, help them feel a sense of belonging, and get involved.
And then to the dollars and cents, in 2021, the town of Vulcan contributed $12,943 to the Vulcan and Region FCSS. In return, the province allocated $51,775 back for preventative services right for the town of Vulcan. So it's based on the 20-80 split. Municipality contributes 20% and the province matches that back for 80%. And it's done by 3-year agreements. Ours is ending next year. So we're having this talk this year to get on the record our request to stabilize our funding.
We also have agreements with the villages of Milo, Airwood, Carmangay, Lomond, and the Vulcan County as well. And then the province matches that 80% to their contributions as well.
So the town of Vulcan then, by having that office here, we choose how to allocate $245,000 a year into local economy through staffing and programs.
Next slide.
So despite dealing with COVID-19, we still managed to do a lot of stuff last year. So we served 3,808 participants at 59 different programs. We're pretty proud of that because it was a hard year to run things. Next slide.
What?
Part.
You said 59 different programs, what did that consist of?
We'll get to some of them.
But yeah, we'll answer that.
So if we don't get to answer your question, ask us again.
We're trying to be 15 minutes.
So part of connecting community is being aware of what's going on in our community and other people knowing what we do and us knowing what other people are doing. So we are part of boards and committees throughout our communities. And we want to be able to also provide the clients that come through our door with appropriate referrals. And we want those other organizations that serve them to provide appropriate referrals. We also want to make sure that we're not duplicating services with other organizations as well. So that connecting bit with other parts of our community is so important.
It helps us establish that another committee or another service organization can run a program, but we could do a different part of the mandate. So we don't have to necessarily pay for the whole thing this way, and that's why we can do more programs.
And in our last report to the province, we had 27 different partnerships and ways that we have worked with other organizations.
So we build up community.
And any member of town council is welcome to come to interagencies. They've been on Wednesdays, first week of the month. month. If you would like to come, you're always welcome, and become more aware of what all the other organizations in our community are doing. It's 11 o'clock on the first Wednesday of the month.
Next slide.
So we have space that is available to the rest of our community as well, where it is appropriate or needed. We have a nice visiting office in the back. It's been used by outreach counselors, clients who walk through our door and need a space to do a Zoom meeting. We have used the youth center for other programs, for other organizations, and our boardroom is available for meetings and training as well. We want to make sure that space is being used and accessed, and that the programs can run in the best way that is possible. If you know somebody who could use a space that would fit in, please refer them to us.
It is a free service and it is gaining popularity. Some of the rainbow groups use the basement. Try to reach out wherever we can. Next slide. More about the money. In 2021, our volunteer income tax program brought back $82,272.63 to 101 low-income families in the area. Many of those are seniors or single parents. That's a great investment back here. But that's just the first part of it, because each one of those people need that done so they can access their pension, their income support, their child tax. And so that puts hundreds of thousands of dollars back in this community every time. We don't know how to quantify that. A few examples of recent walk-in visits to the office. So we see everything. We offer secure connections for court services and international paperwork. So when someone's had a crime somewhere else, we help them access other legal systems. We provide a warm building for residents dealing with addictions to either recharge themselves with a bowl of soup or a phone if they need to call a family member. We assist families and widows in mourning when they need to change a title on their car and they can't email or scan or fax their own documents. As you can see that subsidies, benefits, and referrals bring back countless dollars. Next slide.
So this is the first slide of some of the programs that we have run. Whether it's about providing social connection or filling a gap in a service or a need in our community. So home support would be things like light housekeeping and yard work. Stone Soup was a partnership and a grant to get food out to people who were isolated during COVID. And Senior Kits with the Elder Abuse Committee. We put on Thanksgiving event last year, and Christmas we worked with the library and some other private individuals to reach out to isolated people. Pop-up socials, we help administer the community garden, and then the rest of the work is done by volunteers. And we hold the money for that organization of it, and take the registration. And we put on a Seniors Week breakfast in collaboration with some other groups. So again, it's about serving that social connection, giving people a sense of belonging in their community, and for people to know that somebody does care about them in the community. Not everybody is well connected to others. One more slide. Just a few more of our programs. This summer, Josh, the youth program manager, and myself went out to the villages to do Kids Day Out. It was sort of like a 1 day a week day camp. We set our capacity at 15 kids, but we had 18 kids enrollment. We had 15 in each Arrowwood and Milo with a waiting list each time. So we found there was definitely a need somewhere to go for kids connecting within their community with other kids, seeing other kids, and just appreciating their community and what is offered there. We put on the Great Reconnect Barbecue during Smock Days this year. We weren't sure what to expect with regulations had lifted and COVID, and we didn't know whether it would be big or small, and we planned on 300 people and had more like 600 people. We did that in partnership with the Ag Services from Vulcan County and the Friends of the Library. We counted it as quite successful and enjoyed the day despite it being so hot. And we did an open house in the youth center, which was well attended, and a trivia game to try and get people to know a little more about their community while they were there. We also built the resource directory in the last year, went out either door to door or by mail to in the town of Vulcan, we had it delivered by volunteers. And if anybody was home, they did a bit of a community check-in with the people that answered the door to say, how are you doing? Do you need referrals to any services? So we did connect with a few individuals who were struggling, and it was also reported back to us by the volunteers how a great opportunity it was for them to get out and connect in the neighborhood and just have something meaningful to do. We have a lot of volunteers who ask us for things to do, and it's good to have something for them as well. And this is for people to be aware in that print form of what is available in our community. There's a whole lot available in Vulcan and surrounding communities, and lots of services that come from elsewhere, but also service as well.
I was gonna add to the programs because all of these programs are pretty visible. And they make a poster, and most of the things that we do every day don't fit on a poster. And so one of my big goals, as we went through the first part of COVID, our office was closed for 3 months. And for me, we were only open 4 days a week. We were open from 9 until noon, we were closed over lunch, and then we opened again at 1, and we went till 3. And so if you worked and you needed to access the food bank, or if you had an emergency even, it was hard to even do it on a Friday. And so one of the things that I noticed was people needed to access those services. So the Canada Revenue Agency offices are all closed. The Alberta Works offices are now closed. We have a regional line for all of these things. And what do we have? So we have this little office, and we have gained support through people that come to the door. And we're open regularly at 9 in the morning until 4:30. All day long, we have a staff who will help you connect to that service. And many times we do other industry work only because they're all closed, and people from Vulcan don't always have a car or a phone. And so that's one of our programs as well, which is less flashy.
Yeah, our senior support helps people apply for their benefits, find out what is covered, what isn't covered, with fax forms for things like H and other programs as well that are still working on fax, scanning things. Lots of random things come through our door. Right. On any given day, we promptly forget what all we've helped with.
Okay, next one. The Getaway Youth Center. I was pretty excited talking to Josh today, and if anybody knows Josh Cookson, he's our new youth program manager. He is a powerhouse of ideas, and he has had 189 youth use the youth center in October. So that is awesome. And I'm not talking about great big groups all the time. He's not running great big events like we used to do, but bringing kids in, and it's Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. On Tuesdays and Fridays, he's only open until 6. And on Wednesdays, they have a teen night, so they can be there until 9. Fridays, we do a free lunch, and that's for everyone, so we don't single out just the kids who really need it from the other kids. Everybody comes. It's very popular.
He's worked with the schools to try and get classrooms to come for field trips, because the more the kids are exposed to the youth center, the less intimidating it is. And then it feels like a safer place. And as time goes by and they visit more, and come for the fun, and then you start to develop the relationships that you can start building on some of the school building things that we want to see in the prevention side of youth.
Next slide.
Communication is a big part of what we do. Accessing things in your community, it's important to know that they exist. We can all go out and put up a poster, but who reads the posters? Some people do. Some people don't read the paper, they aren't on Facebook, they aren't getting the message across. And we want to make sure that people are getting the message and finding the ways to get it out to them. So whether it's for what we are doing or for what anyone else is doing, whether it's a family program or it's recreation or it's senior center hours and changes in that, we want to help inform our community so that they are better connected. One of the things we do is the Good Morning newsletter. If you've seen it sitting out on Home Hardware's counter or at the arena or anywhere, we do that every week. We print 270 of the newsletters, and they go in various places around Vulcan and to some of the villages, and they're delivered by volunteers. And we also do an email of events that is once a month. I started that taking over from Kim Daniels with the Early Childhood Coalition, And when that funding ended and I started working for SCSS, I continued it here because we feel as though it is a very important part of keeping our community informed. And not every organization has the capacity to spend the time on informing the community and trying to reach everybody. So we try to invest the time into doing that, seeking out what's been advertised on Facebook, because not everybody is on Facebook, and seeking out what has gone up on a poster, and not everybody saw that poster. And any way we can get the information, we will try to compile it, and also collecting other people's email addresses. That's been a hard thing to do since COVID, because we used to go out to events and actually like talk to people and collect their email addresses. And I'd be happy to take yours today if you're not already on my list. So social media, we try to use it as well. We leave Josh to Instagram for the youth, and we do Facebook. And phone calls, we do, when we offer something, it's not always for the greater public, sometimes it's for targeted individuals. And the best way to reach them is to just actually pick up the phone and call them and invite them, and that's how we get a good turnout.
Next slide. External funding, as it is budget season. We fund other organizations in the area as well, as we mentioned, if their mandate falls within those that the province has set for us. So usually about $10,000 a year in external funding, but these are some of the more recent ones. Popular, less known, but we find this many groups, and at the end of October we take in an application process where our board helps pick by need what we, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Sorry, next slide.
Volunteerism is a big part of what the FCSS mandate is. It gives people something meaningful to do and to take ownership in our community. In 2020, we had 160 different volunteers, and they put in 421 hours. That is actually down a lot because of COVID. It would normally be over 1,000 hours that volunteers would serve for SCSS. We also try to match people to other volunteer opportunities. People like the food bank and come through our doors looking for something, and it's not always available, or we try and find out about other opportunities and then refer people to those as well.
Next slide. So this year's a bit of an anomaly.
We did 189 hampers so far this year. That is as of the end of October. In 2020, we served 407 individuals, and by the end of this September, we've already served 467. So our use is definitely up in our community.
What's the hamper?
So at the food bank, a hamper would be like boxes of foods that go out to a family in need that are experiencing food security issues. Anybody can ask for a hamper, you can self-refer. We get referrals from other organizations that can help their clients access hampers. If we do deliver hampers when it is needed and we're capable of it. We have volunteers that deliver. We have even Cargill donates beef.
150 pounds of beef a month.
Really?
Their employee association,
Wow.
so that's pretty nice. And about the food that you would get is enough for say 7 days for as many people as you apply for. So if you were a family of 8, you'd get a bigger hamper than 2.
Right.
And then at Christmas time, we also partner with gift giving. And so we take in the families, when we provide adopted family gifts or an assortment of other Christmas goodies they get than just a normal hamper.
Yeah, we also decided that people have food security issues outside of our working hours. So we put emergency hampers at the hospital because it's a 24-hour facility. So that might get you through a weekend if you are having a food emergency. And we put up, with the help of town staff, a give and take pantry. So we repurposed one of those little libraries that's pictured there. And anyone can add food to it, and anyone who needs food can take a few. Just like the give a penny, leave a penny idea. For families that have high use, we do review their files after 6 months and try to offer some other supports, or not after 6 months. If they utilize 6 campers, we do a review And at any time, we can offer other supports in, finances or whatever other issues are happening with the family.
That leads more into the next slide, which is rural reaching home. So one of the other supports that we offer, and it's a federal program through the Rural Development Network. We provide the four main costs besides staffing in this area are rent, emergency housing, so things like hotels and campgrounds, someone's utilities being disconnected, and other medical costs or transportation costs that aren't covered. So where that would put an individual at risk of losing their home, then we try to, cover one of the root costs that we can. And so if that's, the biggest expense is usually rent. We can't cover mortgages, so there's no way that they can have a personal sale of whatever we provide. But for sure in the winter and in the last month, we've seen, there was a week where we had 5 evictions. So like on the next slide is the part that's a little more specific of direct services.
This is a separate funding pool from SCSS and the food bank because it comes from the Rural Development Network and provides funding to run another staff person in our office, as well as some of the youth programming is paid for by this program.
It's a very vital part of the community, and we do get Christmas cards from landlords. Because we get some things, because it does help stabilize another side of the community, which is the transition of people moving.
And it's not ongoing funding for someone, it is to prevent homelessness on an emergency type basis, not to sustain somebody continuously. But we do work with a number of other organizations, quite often the social worker at the hospital, the principals at the school, Rainbow Literacy. Other people have referred us back to their services as well for this program.
So say if you've heard of elder abuse had an emergency situation, then we step in. We're covering that cost through someone is living in a domestic situation at victim services and they need to go now. And that's what this is.
Next slide.
And that's us. So you can see we do a lot. We've found a lot of information onto your plate. And do you have any questions?
I did bring you guys like a 2-page overview of pretty much what we presented, so that if you need to refer back, you can.
We'll also, if we can keep this slide show till tomorrow, we'll also post it on the agenda as well.
Okay.
I guess I do have one question.
Sure.
Where does your funding primarily come from?
So there's 3 streams. So FCSS is the provincial mandate, and that's the partnership between the $12,000 that comes from the town of Vulcan and a regional partnership with the province. So each of those little municipalities are tax dollars collected, and they come to us. And then the province matches that with probably income tax dollars. And so it's still your money coming back, but we provide a way to bring it back. And that's just FCSS.
And
Then-
the county as well?
Yeah, there's,
County funds another 20%.
yeah,
And there is a per capita formula for
Right.
each community as well.
so I've worked to add like Milo, Arrowwood, we've had Carmen Gay, Lomond, and then we have the rural Vulcan County and the town of Vulcan. So you have 6 organizations in that. Champion has its own service, they paid to withdraw.
They used to be a member.
Right. And then that's just FCSS. So their mandate is really strict of what I can do with that money. And one of the things they say is you can't help a single individual, you can help a group. And so the RDN is a federal program out of Ottawa, and we write federal reports every quarter on that. And they reimburse me for whatever the food bank spends. So I have to keep that amount always in a pot so that then it can come back. And that covers several of our staffing costs. And then my other strain of money is either grants we apply for programming or donations for the food bank. So the food bank also is a registered society now, it's working to have, each of those are 3 separate.
We kind of operate under one roof, and Joan is the executive director of all 3. But they are separate organizations. Well, RDN falls under the food bank in administering it, right? They're all separate funding pools. Yeah. Any other questions?
questions? No, well, thank you very much. We appreciate you guys taking the time to come out tonight and bring the council up to speed on what you've been doing. And
Great. Well, thank you for listening to us. We're sorry we talk so much.
well, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So you can pass that
Oh,
over.
they're passed out.
I'll give you one.
I'll forward my email.
You want
Yep,
an
do you
email?
wanna do your email at the events?
Sure. Does anyone want to?
I can, Lori, I can just forward you all their emails. They all got brand new ones.
That would be great.
Okay.
And that way you know what's going on.
I'll just send you an email that has all their
That would be wonderful.
addresses in it tomorrow.
It was nice meeting you all and putting faces to names.
And your faces.
Yeah.
Your masks to faces, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, with.
Great, well, thank you very much. And again, like I usually say, you're welcome to stay for the rest of council meeting, but
Lori, do you want to grab that pen drive that you guys brought us?
Sure, did you already say that?
I copied it out, so,
Okay.
Yeah, I have a copy of it too.
so that way we'll put it on the agenda
Okay.
tomorrow.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
For being close to 15 minutes. Don't talk too much, sorry.
That's good. Okay, well, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda, correspondence and information items. So any of these items that we go through, if there is something that needs to be derived from them, we can make a motion on that individually, or at the very end, most of the time, we just accept it for information. So we'll start off with the RCMP. We usually get information on a quarterly basis. Troy usually likes to come and visit with us, but unfortunately with COVID and everything else, he tries to split it up a bit, so.
Usually comes in the spring. He was here earlier this spring and does a report and then provides these quarterly.
So anyway, the first one is just the community letter, virtually telling us, congratulations on being here, and the information that he supplies us. And then the second one is the crime stats, and the little squiggly lines kind of look kind of strange, but if you kind of follow through them, they'll go like from 2017, 18, 19, 20, 28, 21, and you'll see how they kind of go up and down depending on what they have for events that are going on. Any questions on any of the ones on provincial crime status? That's for the Vulcan detachment. Like I said, he tries to, we try and get it he tries to get it to us every quarter, and then, like Kim said, he usually tries to make it at least once in the year. And then the last one, sorry, go ahead, Judy, sorry.
Can I ask when we took the time to go over paying the RCMP? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah, so, you're absolutely correct. Communities under 3,000 didn't used to have to pay under 5,000 didn't used to have to pay for RCMP. The province has started charging us, and it's phased in over the next 4 years. So the first year was 37,000, the second year is 57,000. So that'll be this year. Next year is 75,000, and then it'll top out at 115,000 for the town of Vulcan that we will be paying to the RCMP for their services. And that amounts to 30% of what they feel that the services that they provide to the town of Vulcan. We pay 30% of that cost now.
Do we also, I read something about we're paying some retroactive pay, are we?
Well, that's coming out, but they haven't.
But they haven't, okay.
Yes, and that was a federal agreement with the negotiations that they did with the employee union, and you'll hear quite a bit about it at the AUMA next week. What they're doing is municipalities are being very vocal on any retroactive pay that the province negotiates with the RCMP. That's their own agreement that they did. That municipalities didn't have any say in that, so they've been very vocal about voicing their opinion that they don't feel that they should have to pay any retroactive pay top-ups.
And the province is saying that they had no say in it either, so it'll be one of those chicken and egg things again. So.
Thank you.
So we know for sure what our funding is going to be. Again, like I said, the 37, 57, 75, and then 113. So.
Okay. And any community that was over the 5,000 people,
Was already paid.
they were already paying, like, you know, Coaldale as an example, paid $1.8 million for policing in Coaldale.
So you always wanna stay on your 5,000 population?
Now it doesn't matter because
Not
we have to
anymore.
pay for
Used
it.
to be, once you
Used
get
to be, yes.
5,001, you're automatically,
Yeah, and it was a huge thing for a lot of communities. And a lot of the communities that were sitting at that 5,000 level had already started, instead of hiring CPOs, they would hire the enhanced Rcmp. So what they would do is they started contributing to bolster the force that they had. And we looked into that when we were looking at CPO things, and that is to the tune of about $165,000 a year per officer to do that. So
the bad thing about the CPO, I mean, that project too, is they will not do any bylaw.
well, didn't like doing bylaw stuff.
So it created some issues that way, so that's why the CPO project was so much better for a lot of municipalities. Okay, so any other questions on the policing one? If not, we'll go on to FCSS. Or, sorry, family violence, I apologize, sorry. I had something pop up right in front of it, now I got it with the F. Anyway, that's just it's Family Violence Prevention Month. And then the next one is the Vulcan and District Ag Society, Historical Society, and Archives and Museum. So
this is the second year that they've done this. They've been operating off their casino funds, and with COVID and with the financial positions of a lot of municipalities, they've said again that they're not going to request their annual funding from the town. So we'll take account for that in the budget when we're doing the budget. And for those of you that aren't aware, it's to the tune of about $18,000. So they hope that they can use their casino funding for another year.
That's 18,000 is their operating cost per year?
Is what we grant to them per year.
okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Fortis Alberta. Okay, so they'll have a presence at the AUMA conference, and so sometimes you might get a chance, if you're going around, one of them might introduce themselves as somebody that does represent our area from Fortis. Okay, any questions on any of those four? And there's nothing that we really need to probably derive or information that we need to do from them, so is somebody interested in Lyle?
I'll move to accept this information, first correspondence for information.
Okay, thank you, Lyle. So any discussion on Lyle's motion? If not, we'll call the question, and we'll see how it comes up. Come up for you guys, Richard, or?
I'm back, I got rid of my HTML,
Oh,
I
okay.
had a full screen, and that's when I took it out.
Okay.
Okay, so, I guess we're still missing 3 of you, so whoever didn't get it.
Continue vote on the bottom.
Pardon me, sorry?
Just says continue vote, should I?
Sure.
Sure, try it.
It says loading.
Mine doesn't say that.
Okay, so for the 3 that aren't successful to tie in, if you want to, are you in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is carried unanimously, thank you. Sorry about that, we'll try and figure out what we're doing wrong here. And, okay, now we move on to the financial reports, the cash statement. So this is what you'll see, the next 2 documents we'll see every month. And we've tried to tailor it so that it kind of gives you the information of, what's out there for money and what's there we have in our bank account and what's year to date. So I'll let Kim.
So I can do a very quick for all of the new councils. This is a capture of the date. So on September 30th, 2021. Top line being the general bank account, that's the account that we put the majority of the money in and out before we move it to GICs or any kind of investment. So that's our bank account. As you can see, the only number that really would make sense to you on that will be the year to date. That's what we have. That's what we had on that date in cash in the account was $204,000. The 26 million that you see are all the transactions that have happened through our GL accounts up to that point. So under investments, the same, you'll see a debit and a credit, though that's just a movement of money in or out of those accounts. So on the notice on demand, really what you guys are looking for is that last line year to date. Where were we on this day? So we had $2 million in our notice on demand account, general account, and the reason for that is we just received the funding for the borrowing for the pool. So we had expended most of our reserves, carrying the load of paying the cash down on the pool, and then when we borrowed the funds, the province forwarded the funds to us and we replenished our reserves, which were in this account. So the next account, and I should have Lyle explain these ones because he asked me 3 times on this one what this one was, and it's a hard one to remember. It's the federal gas tax, and they change the name on these all the time, so we'll keep this in there as long as they keep the name of it the same, but this is money that we get from the federal government based on the fuel tax that you get charged on buying fuel, that sort of thing. And we keep that in a GIC account specifically for infrastructure projects. It has to go back to paying for sidewalks, roads, lighting, street lighting, that sort of thing. Buses, LRTs, all those wonderful things. MSI Capital is the money that we get from the province for doing our infrastructure. You can see that one had 1.2 million in there and 1.2 come out, and we only have $14,000 left. The reason for that is in the MSI, the money that we had, we actually have to have a project in the process before the province will send us the money. So the 1.2 that you see that went in and out is actually the money that we put towards the pool. Notice on demand for the innovation, 12,000. That's currently still there, but council has made a motion to use that for the pool as well. So that one will be dropping down. GIC for green space, that one also has $30,000 as of September in there. We're also going to be withdrawing that to, there's a motion from council to withdraw that to put towards the pool as well. The green space one, that is the 10% we either take in cash or in land from when somebody subdivides a chunk of land. So if somebody buys a chunk of land, wants to put a subdivision in it, part of the subdivision process is 10% of that land has to go to the municipality for green space. If they don't want to donate that 10% of the land for green space, they have to donate cash in the equivalent value, and the town has to hold it in reserve for updates to recreation, or it can't go to infrastructure like roads and things like that. It has to go to parks, green spaces, those sort of things. So that's why that one was also earmarked for the pool, because that's recreation that benefits our entire community. And Tom, some of those funds have been sitting there for how many years? Probably 30?
30 years, at least some of them, so we put them all together and expended them. But on that green space one, a prime example is that the Whispering Creek area and Whispering Greens and all that area, that person that was subdivided it gave land in lieu of cash.
The cash.
So all the land that the golf course sits on that was given to the town as green space in lieu of giving us cash. Whereas some of the other subdivisions around they didn't want to give up any land, so they give you cash in lieu.
So this GIC green space funds, it can be used to build like parks, it can be used, say, the racket courts or.
But it's all been used
Yeah,
up.
but then,
Like that.
yeah, all those kind of things, and that's what I wanted to make sure that you guys know, that those numbers are gonna be falling out, because there's already been a motion from council to put that towards the pool, so.
Yeah.
And the last one, which is really important, there's $20,000 in there, that's for the flag program. All that money does is sit in that account and collect interest. It's held in trust by the town for the perpetuity of the hall of flagpoles that were put in that community flagpole program. Now, when they did that program, $20,000 was enough to sustain the interest that was gained off of it through a GIC, was enough to actually maintain and change all the flags every year. It currently doesn't do that, so the Lions Club has been offsetting that with a grant of their own of about, I think it's $1,000 or $2,000 that they've been.
One something.
Yeah, 1,000 I think was the start, and then I think they did do one for
We're still doing
2,000.
that? Is mine?
I haven't heard for this year, but they have the last couple of years. And what that does is that additional $1,000 allows us to buy enough flags to top that up and then take the interest off of that. So that one, there is something in the agreement that GIC will always, like, council always has the ability to close or direct administration to change where GIC is, but that one has a long-standing commitment with the town, so.
There is, and when we get into our budgeting process, you'll find like, there's a couple other ones that are the same way. And, you know, that are in there, ones at the cemetery and.
Advertising in the arena,
And the
those are
advertising
very
in the arena,
specific for what those grants and
And
reserves.
so there's some that are set
available.
up and we cannot touch them, can't touch the principal, but we can touch the interest to use them on
So-
whatever project they are.
So as we do the budgeting process, you will see that we hold things in reserve. We don't always, all of the reserves don't always have their own line item on this cash statement because they can be covered under on the notice on demand accounts as well. Bottom line here is what you're looking for, is this dollar line is what we're holding in reserve. At this point, it's 2.18. And we, for the last 10 years, have slowly started building that. When I started in 2014, I believe we only held a couple $100,000 in reserve. And to this point, for the last 4 years, we've maintained a level of about 1.5, and that seems to be our happy spot. I know if you talk to auditors and that, they want a whole year's operating in reserve, but holding $6 million in reserve is unattainable for us without raising taxes.
So that's just your fund, just for emergency or whatever?
No,
Well, it's earmarked for all that, but yes,
Or
yeah.
anything that
Yeah.
creeps up.
Basically, 1.5 is where we've been holding, and you'll see that when we go through the reserves. There's a specific list of reserves for emergency services, for public works, for administration, for when we do the computer upgrades, all of that stuff. So when you see that, we bring that up further in March, when we do the overall budget, but you'll see every one of those line items. And again, if there's a surplus, you get, that's the only real fun job you get to allocate funds to those reserves to actually,
yeah.
when we do have a surplus. That's a really good planning portion of what council does, is when you get to allocate those surpluses to different reserves, which is very different than how we used to do things. We used to wait for that surplus, and then we would plan capital around the surplus. So if there was a surplus, then you could do a project. If there wasn't a surplus, you waited till the next year.
Yeah. So we'll go into that more when we get involved in the budgeting process. But this just, we get this every month, just so that you show where we're at financially. And you guys can go back in this program, go back in and pick up like, you know, October's meeting or, you know, January's meeting, and you kind of look at, see how that money changes around. And when we go into the next one, if there's any questions on this one before we move on?
You should have known this one as its own.
Okay, so
If you're happy with it.
yeah, if you're happy with it, we have a motion to accept this. Okay, Judy moves the cash statement. Okay, any question on Judy's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. And see if it comes up.
I saw 3 hands at this
Yeah,
side.
I'm not even worried about
Okay,
it.
so the ones that can't vote electronically have voted in favor of it. Thank you. I apologize for that.
We'll put Will, Richard, and Cole
try.
as yes, unless we see them doing this.
Okay, so
Thank you, Karen.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to the year-to-date. Go ahead.
So this for council is going to be more of what you're going to see inside the departments. You're going to see all, and then what we do is we provide a summary. So for you to know, under general taxes and fees, when we go through the budget here at the committee of the whole meeting that hopefully you guys approve doing, you'll see that every category in here has 30 or 40 lines of GLs that are included in that. So each one of these, this is why we provide this as a summary, because it's still a 3-page document for you guys to see where we're at. For the simplest terms of looking at this document, and for simplicity when you're trying to understand it, it's really, really simple. You budget $6 million. You, for revenue and expenses, and as a municipal government, you have to do a balanced budget every time you do. You can't surplus money unless it's earmarked for reserve, so you can't run a deficit, so you have to collect the same amount of taxes as you are going to spend. So when you look at this, $6 million, we spend $500,000 a month is basically the easiest way to really look at that. So every time we go through this with every council that I've gone through, the number one question is usually, are we where we should be for this time of year? The easiest way to look at that is if we spend $500,000 a month. As of this statement, we had 3 months to go. So on our expense side, that would be $1.5 million. We're at 1.7. So that says that, you know, we at this point would be running a surplus of approximately $200,000. Plus, if you look at that, we are $400,000 left in money to collect. So we would run a $200,000 deficit if everything went. But we know we're going to collect those additional funds, and the reason why I know that, and that's, well, we'll go through this very quickly. Taxes in general is very, very simple. That's the tax we collect. School tax is the next one. The province sends us a bill for collecting school tax, and we collect it as part of our taxation. So you can see we've collected all the money, all but $766. We haven't spent it all, but that's because they bill us quarterly. So we've got another bill of $154,000 coming. Legislatively, this is all of your expenses for council, for you attending all your meetings, your equipment, all of the per diems, honorariums. General administration, this is where all of the internal staff here that isn't earmarked to a specific department, say recreation or development, utilities, those sort of things. This is where all of our financial wages, basically everything that happens in the office, the pay, the photocopiers, the running this office, keeping this afloat, so that's where that is. Fire, fighting, that is a straight up contract that we pay to the county now. Under that fire, we also pay for FRESC for their fees, so that we can be a member of the Foothills Regional Emergency Management, so that they do 911 dispatch for us. Emergency services, we only put $3,000 in there. Like I said, we'll go through this more and more with the budget. That is, emergency services is our regional partnership that we have, that we do a regional emergency management plan. And sometimes we need some cash to pay for materials and updates for them in there. Bylaws, the budget obviously for the CPO. Public workshop that's where all the equipment lies. It's not, guys, just at the shop, it's not just the workshop, that's where we do all the repair and maintenance for all of the equipment that we run. Roads and streets, pretty obvious. The airport is a straight out donation was to the committee, now it's going to be to the flying club. Water treatment, this one's kind of an odd one because this is the treatment itself. You can see we make $250,000 off of it, and that's what our contract to the Water Commission is. There was very few water treatment plant operators in the full commission, so the town of Vulcan was requested that the existing operators run the plant, and so the town entered into an agreement with the Water Commission to operate the plant for them for $240,000 a year. We'll go into more background than that when we're doing the budget portion of it. Stormwater is fairly straightforward. FCSS, you can see that. The reason why you see the dollar figures the way you do on FCSS at that much higher rather than the $12,000 that Joan mentioned is we are the managing partner for FCSS, so we do all the paperwork for them. all the money comes through our books and then to them, and then they do the report, they come back to us and I submit them to the province for them, so we run all the funds through the town of Vulcan. Cemetery's pretty straightforward. Planning and development, this is obviously the NPC and our development officer and all of that we put through there. Subdivision, this one seems very weird. Why do you have a subdivision? This is the rent that we get off of different chunks of land that we own for, say, cellular towers, the solar area, that sort of thing. And then the expenses are actual expenses that we paid to actually subdivide land on there. So these are actually loan payments. Economic development is something we used to have. We used to have a line item in there for BVS, which was an external economic development, and so we've left a line in there. What we've done is we've adjusted the budget for things that we do internally, which are the business incentives, those sort of things that we do through there. So recreation obviously is a fairly good sized budget in there. Golf course loan is a standalone because we solely make the loan payments on that golf course loan. We split out our parks, swimming pool, arena, library and archives. Obviously we give money to the library and archives. That's where that grant that we had talked about there as well. Tourist center, we're taking on the operation as well with that, so that's we just did. Water, this is for our purchasing and sale of just water from the Water Commission. So that's where when you see total revenue, when I'm not really worried about the 400,000 because we haven't done our final billing, so we still have 284,000 just in water to come in on water sales. I am a little concerned that we're not selling as much water as you know, this is the slower time of year, so we're not selling the same amount that we would in the summertime, but overall we should be fairly close. Sewer is the same thing. We bill that and garbage. We bill all at the same time on through our utility bills, so that's where the revenue comes in. You can see between the three of them, there's over the $400,000 that we're expecting to come in just in that alone. So from our next utility run. So that's a quick and dirty of this. I know there's going to be lots of questions on it, but once you get used to seeing this month to month, the summary will make a lot more sense because all of a sudden you'll start to see anomalies in there. You know, anybody that read this really close should look at the swimming pool and say, you know what, you budgeted $130,000 in revenue and you have $356,000 in revenue. How did that happen? 300,000 of it was the donation or the money that the county gave us for the pool. We had to put it through our books through the budget. So those things you'll start to pick up on fairly quickly. But really,
and once we get into the budgeting, then like Kim said, we'll pull out each one of these areas, these summaries, and break down all the stuff that's underneath there. So that gives you an opportunity really to look more definite. We'll invite Janice and
all the department
all the
heads
departments in to discuss on where their budgets come from and how they generate them and how they come up with the figures. And then like Kim said, then you'll get an opportunity to see any of the reserves, where we put reserves in and why the reserves are put there and how they work out. So
I'll just show you really quickly how we generate this report. So this is the report that you're going to see for the October 31st, so this is a little bit in advance. This is the summary, and this is what it spits out, and this is what you see every month. This is the actual report that generates that. So these are all the line items inside tax, school, legislative, general administration, firefighting, emergency services, bylaw. These are all the line items.
so you'll get a chance to see all of these when we get into the next one.
This is what we'll concentrate on when we go through the budget. We'll give you this, compare last year's to this year, take it home, chew it up, have a couple weeks to think about it, and then you come back and help administration put this together so that you can.
Do you do, like breakdowns, like class reports for everything as well?
We just, honestly, for council purposes, we just go to the GLs. So
Okay.
just the simple GL for, and you can see like on recreation,
Yeah.
wages, benefits, staff development, travel allowance, fallen, like it's in depth enough. You could at any point, council could come in and take one of those line items and come to us and say, hey, I wanna know what happened in that GL. We generally don't have that, but it's always available there, so.
Okay.
And so this other summary is what we post on our agendas, and everybody gets an opportunity to see it. The GL one, we don't post. It is available, but it's not posted, and the reason why is because if you only pick out one or two items on that line without knowing how the rest of it's generated, it's kind of irrelevant to a degree. But as a counselor, you'll get an opportunity when Janice comes and Stu and all the department heads, they'll break down and say, this is what I put into this category or whatever. And there have been times when council members have asked and said, maybe we should add a line or delete a line or, put them together so that you have more breakdown. But we do not go line by line on a monthly basis. We just go on and we approve the budget and then go from there. Cool.
Sorry, I'm sure you've told me, but when do we usually tackle the budget?
It's
Okay.
coming.
I was gonna say, so there's gonna be a motion on this at this meeting to have the first committee of the whole. So before the end of the year, so you really only have 2 more meetings. Before the end of the year, you have to do an interim budget. So we basically adopt all of last year's information with any changes that we know that we're going to make. And then from now, after you approve it in December until April, we work on amending any changes, we find out and then we hold another committee of the whole meeting in April, because you have to have the budget set before you set the tax rate.
Sure.
So what we do is we have another committee of the whole meeting then, where we review the interim budget compared to what you actually need for the final budget, and then any impacts that will have. So if your budget is short on revenue, then you need to look at what a tax increase looks like, or what things you're gonna cut out of it, and those sort of things. And we put all those scenarios together for you now.
And then we'll go through it line by line theoretically, and you can just kind of look and see if there's something that jumps out and says, hey, I'd like to look into it more, or question on that, so.
So this is the first time you're seeing it. As we go through the budget process, we'll get through the first and second committee of the whole meeting, and we'll get the interim put in place. And again, the interim is as close to last year as we can get with the known changes that we know that we're gonna have. Like, we know that the archives is not going to ask for their funding this year, so we're gonna pull that out of the budget. We'll do all that, and then at any point, all the counselors that we had here, you can come in individually and sit with either Janice and I, and we can go through this as well to make sure that you have a really good understanding of it as well. But we'll try to fill you up with as much information as we can, but I know some of it is very, very overwhelming, and it's a lot of numbers very quickly. So if you want to take time to actually sit down and go through it individually, we can do that as well, but it's all a matter of what you're comfortable with.
And sometimes it's nice to do it collectively, because, other people might have the same question, and collectively, instead of, 6 of us going to visit Janice, we can do it collectively, so.
So that's why we invite the department heads to that first kick at it as well, so that you can ask those questions.
And then once we get into our planning session later on after in January, then we'll get an opportunity to add and delete and go through the process again, so.
Is there still a loan on the golf course?
Yes.
There is.
Yes, the golf course loan is done in 2025.
Okay.
Is our last payment, which works out very, very well, because it's going to kind of run together with the swimming pool loan.
So
Golf
once it's
course will be
done,
done, swimming pool will be going. Shouldn't impact taxation at all.
So once it's done, the agreement in 2025, you guys will not be collecting taxes to pay
No,
the interest?
we don't collect taxes for the golf course period.
Yeah.
It comes out of general taxation.
General taxation, everybody pays for it, so it'll just, all that will happen is in 2025, the title on golf course loan payment will
Disappear.
It'll disappear out of this report.
And then
It's been there for 20-odd years, so some people will think that's a great thing, other people will think it's time to invest in another recreation facility, so. But yeah, no, it's part of general taxation, and
Okay.
always has.
Yeah, and we can go in through all our debts and all our stuff when we get back into the budget process too. And then we'll also do that again generally when we do our orientation, or not our orientation meeting, our meeting in January, hopefully that we'll have, or February, which will do some planning of what, projects and how they come up with, and which projects, why, and where, and how that money is all spent.
And as we get through that, you'll
It'll-
have a really good grasp of where we're at, and really generally what it leads to is like Cole's question, where do you start? We start working on the budget in early October, and it goes through until you guys pass it in April and you do the mill rate so that we can start collecting taxes. But the very second that you set the mill rate, we also start preparing things for your public engagement, because every year we are supposed to, we haven't been able to do it because of COVID, every year we do a public open house where we review the budget, and in that, it reviews debt loads, your strategic plan, any borrowing, your capital plans, your capital borrowing, all that, and we hold that for the entire community, and our record in the last few years has been 9 people attend.
Yeah,
So hoping we can get some more people engaged with it, but we follow, it used to be very different, they present different things all the time. Now we've made it very, very straightforward, everybody sees the same information every year and can actually see the updates and where we're going, so hopefully we'll start to get to more interest in it, but. So yeah, it starts in October, ends in May.
Sure.
so the planning session that we'll have though will probably be a 2-day event. We usually try and go somewhere to do it, so that we can, and it's not just a normal day, we usually go until, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and so we can get it in and get it done, so. And again, you guys will get another kick of the cat to look at some of the process of how things are done at that planning sessions, of why and where the money, and you get to make some decision, questions, and add your inputs into them there, so that we can meld them into the budgets and do what you guys want to do for the next 4 years.
Yeah, the planning session is it's really good 2 days. It's really intense, thinking about the community, what you'll do, but it's not the traditional strategic planning that you've done, where it's the SWOT and you bring in we've done that so many times that the mission and vision don't ever change, so why would we bring in somebody to do that? We need to focus on what you guys would like to accomplish for the next 4 years, and we do that through talking to all of our partners, all of our department heads, and then you guys giving direction to administration on how we're gonna do it,
So that kind of semi-drives our budget for the next years too. I mean, sometimes, because some of the projects, you might have to put, example, like Kim said on our GICs, or not GICs, our reserves, some of them have been allocated for projects, and then once that project's up and running, the money's spent on it, then it disappears, and then usually there's at least 10 other projects that are on the list, so you'll get an opportunity to do that, but right at the moment, this will be what you get to see on a monthly basis.
Are there any questions on what you saw?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just a little, not confused, but you've got like a negative, you were saying that's a loss, right? When you have a negative in front of a number, like the line in front, or, because you've got brackets, I'm just used to something different.
The computer kicks it out different, brackets and negative mean the same thing.
Okay, that's where my confusion was.
Yes, yes, and just depending on where it was, how it got kicked out in the report, sometimes it puts the brackets around it, sometimes it puts the negative on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so a negative in the revenue is money left to collect.
Yeah.
Negative on the expense means you've gone over budget.
Right.
And
Yeah, I seen the brackets and I was used to brackets, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
okay, any other questions? So this is another one that we need to accept, approve, so I'll need a motion
I'll
to.
make the motion.
Can I ask?
Sure, no, that's fine.
So when we assume the general administration, just for an example, when it says 52,000 in the positive and the variance for revenue, so that means that that's money that we didn't expect to take in?
That's right, and I can tell you straight out that was grant funding.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a $50,000 grant that we had to put through administration.
Okay. Thank you.
Good catch.
No, thank you. Okay, so Richard has moved this. Any other questions or discussion on Richard's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. So those that can't vote electronically. So it is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to bylaws, which we have done at the moment. We'll move on to council's postponement for the November the 22nd. I'm not sure if this is self-explanatory to you or not, but with everybody going to AUMA conference and also administration Kim goes, it's hard to generate enough of the stuff to get ready for the meeting on the 22nd. So what he's asking for is us to postpone it to the 29th. It still gives us time between the end of November and the December meeting, but yet it gives us a bit of a break so that the administration, and sometimes too, there's some information that comes out on in the AUMA conference that you might want to add to the agenda. So it's pretty hard to end the meeting on the 19th at the AUMA conference and have it on our agenda for the 22nd. So.
The AUMA essentially ends at 1 o'clock, and we try to have the agenda out by 2 to 3 o'clock. There's just absolutely no way.
Right.
Even if Karen has everything put together, for me to sit in my car in the parking lot and try to approve everything to put on the agenda is a bit of a rush.
Okay, so good, yeah. So Richard has moved that we postpone the meeting from the 22nd to the 29th. Is there any questions on Richard's motion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. Okay, we got the three, so it's carried unanimously. Great, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the commercial development incentive.
Okay, hope you've all had a chance to review this. The policy is attached in the back of this. Sorry. Just the application is in the back. So council has development incentive policy, and it has 5 different options for supporting our local businesses with tax breaks or cash to help with changes. The reason why this has come forward is every one of them needs a motion of council. This one is a little bit unusual because we're putting it through because he didn't build a brand new building, but he expanded his business by buying the neighboring building. So we're asking council to consider this as an expansion, and so that falls under the business expansion, but he didn't actually put an addition on his building. He actually bought the lot across the street and another building and started putting money into that building so that he could increase his, and that was we put a lot of work into this business incentive policy over the years. There was quite a bit of discussion on it earlier this year and a little bit last year on how do you support and what qualifies in this. When the guy came with the application, it was truly what council wanted to support, but it fell between 2 categories, so we had to pick one and put it here. This incentive would give him a 25% exemption off of his taxes for the next 3 years. The only other one that he would qualify for would be the expanding in an existing business, and that one was 25, 75. And so he was happy with this. That's what he put on his application. We talked our way through it. So it's really up to council if you feel that it qualifies as an expansion of the existing business.
And the taxes that we give them an exemption on is not the education portion.
You guys can only give an exemption on municipal.
On the municipal portion of it. So, so he'll still have to pay the education tax at 100% of whatever the education tax would have been on that piece of property.
If there was a local improvement, he'd also have to pay all of that as well.
So, again, so some properties have local improvements, again, they're 100%, they're not reductions in. So, there's an opportunity if, again, when we do this planning session, we can, to bring this one back, because it's quite an important one to try and offer businesses an opportunity to expand and do something. And you guys might wanna get an opportunity to read through it and debate it or discuss it with, you know, the 2 or 3 of us that have been around when these were implemented.
Because there may be some changes that you'd like to see.
Yeah, you might say, hey, you know, we don't agree with it, or we do, and how can we enhance it, or how do we get rid of it? I know that Nanton has another one that, you know, we could take a look at and, you know, bring it back and say, hey, is this one that, you know, what Nanton's doing to enhance it? When I talked to Nanton Mayor about ours, she was impressed with some of ours, and I was kind of interested in some of theirs, because some of theirs, if you don't open that business, you end up having to pay something back. Whereas, you know, we have always been fortunate enough that all the building, you know, have fallen into one of the categories.
Yeah, what really stemmed this is, again, you guys heard from Peter tonight, economic development. This was a driver on this when VBS was no more, and we were trying to look at economic development in it. 90% of economic development that happens in your community happens from existing businesses. So what we're doing with this is we're supporting, this one particularly supports a business that's there that's trying to expand, those sort of things. So that's what council's focus was on this. There are some really good incentives for a new business coming in and building a building. There's really good incentives for even a renter. Council looks at a $500. If you're a renter and you're going into a building and you can't afford to buy the building yet, council will give you $500 to advertise this to start up, but that's a one-time thing. Then when you buy a building, then you can get an exemption for 3 years on the taxation to help you get through the first couple of years. And so what I'll do is I'll email out the full policy to everybody to have a good review, because it's something that, again, like Tom said, you should be looking at in your planning.
And some businesses want front-end loaded, some of them want them back-end loaded. So, you know, that gives us opportunity. This is what they sat down with the town on and came up with this process.
So for the purposes of this, I'll just let council know, the recommendation and for the motion, if you would like, is just to accept it as presented. If you do that, you still have to make a motion to actually waive the tax when you do it. So what I do then is I put this on a report that will come back to you after you've set the mill rate for this particular property.
I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's where I'm thinking, this is a bare lot right next to it, right?
No.
No, he bought one with a building.
Yeah, this is an existing building.
Okay.
And these are what the renovations that he's planning on doing to this existing.
He's already completed a good portion of them.
And so, you know, there's a couple other businesses that we've had that have done it, the same thing, you know, they re-sided it or re-shingled it or put metal on the roof or fixed it up or painted it or, and there are some businesses that have never come to us that we thought might come to us, that have been, they've been told about this, and they said, no, you know, we're not interested right at the moment, so.
This will give them a 25% municipal tax rate.
Reduction.
4 years?
3.
3 years.
Yeah. Just on that expansion, yeah.
So it'll
That's
come,
why we tie it to a specific roll number.
and it will come back to us, if we recommend this, it'll come back to us with, and it'll come back to us for 3 years. We can't approve it for another council, so like, something that another council approved, theoretically can't be approved, that would affect this council.
So the MGA says that you can only remove taxes or reduce taxes in the current year. So every year you have. Council in the past had done agreements for long-term to waive taxes for 5 years or whatever. And we found out by developing this tax incentive that you could only do 1 year at a time. So what we do now is council approves this. So now if you're in agreement, you approve this, but every year when you set the mill rate, after you've done the mill rate, then I bring it back to you. Here's the ones that you guys have approved. Do you still agree to do this year?
And so we budget into that category at that time it'll be a reduction. It's the same thing as we have a category in the taxes, in our budget that says we'll not recover a portion of our tax base. for whatever reason. And so that's put in there. Some years we're lucky and we guess not as much, and some years we are unlucky. So, Richard?
So, this tax rate is just for the new piece?
No, just for that one piece of property.
Yeah, so the piece he has already, it's gonna be, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
and he qualified for an exemption on that piece when he bought and fixed it.
Okay, that's, how long's he got on that one?
I think that one's just about done, he may have one more year on it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, just one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many of these do we have granted right now to other businesses?
I believe we have 3 on the go, of the tax exemptions. We're seeing about 2 to 3 applications a year. The last couple applications we did were for the, we do renovation, so if you renovate your building to improvement like the facade, that sort of thing, you can qualify for 10% reduction up to $10,000. So really, it's $1,000.
So the first time it worked very well for him, it was,
Yeah,
he kept
it
it
did.
going, obviously it worked, so he's going into the next stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll make that motion that we go with this.
Approve the commercial development incentive application PL 12-2106 as presented.
Say that and I'll hold your breath.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts? And again, you know, when we get into this planning session, you know, if you guys remember or think of something that you'd like in this planning session thing that we do, this, you know, suggest it and we'll bring it back so that we can flush it out and so you can have a really good discussion on some of it that's not.
I guess I have a comment for it. To me, it's a no-brainer to go ahead with this. In our community, we're gonna have, to me, a lot of reclamation projects. This is perhaps taking a building and a piece of property and having private investment into it, so that we can perhaps have another business set up there or whatever his plan is for it. So to me, it's a great incentive for that.
Okay, Barb?
And I agree with Cole, and I would be interested to see and hear about other incentives that we
Yeah.
can do.
And we'll
for
bring those
people.
back, and when we get an opportunity, we can kind of throw potential other business names that, but we can't do it in this
No.
opportunity, so.
Really what it does is it, the investment of a 3-year tax reduction of 25% helps establish a business that will hopefully be in your community for the next 50, right?
Yeah.
That was council's thought with the policy that they put in place.
Okay, so any other thoughts or questions, discussions? Richard moved that? Okay, so I'll call the question. For the 3 that doesn't have an opportunity to vote electronically, I voted in favor, so it's carried unanimously. Great, thank you very much, and we'll move on to the committee of the whole. So this is the one that we're recommending that we have, and it's to bring back that review of the first kick at the budget.
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. I'm not suggesting we have a meeting on every day of those, like the 23rd, 24th, 25th. After I read that again this weekend, I'm like, that makes it look like a long one. Just a day in that area, in those days, and then a follow-up at December 6th, 7th, or 8th. And the reason being is we'll look at the calendar here. You guys are at AUMA, we're all at AUMA basically from the 16th to the 19th. I'll have a chance to finalize some things in the budget on the 21st. So if you pick a day, the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th, again, we'll try to do this as an afternoon meeting. I know that you guys have jobs and commitments and committee meetings. So what we'll do is we'll try to keep this to a 4-hour, and it'll be all the department heads. We'll go through the budget line by line. Then we will let you guys take that budget home, chew on it, look at it, you know, ask those questions, to give you a time to have a phone call to myself or whatever. And then what we'll do is any of the discussions in there of immediate pending items that we know that we need to work on, it gives Janice and I the opportunity to work with the department heads to get any of the changes made. And then if you guys have another meeting the 7th or 8th ideally, and then if we need to make any changes, we can make them on the 9th or 10th, and then it can be brought to council on the 13th for final approval, is the thought process behind it. So I need to basically just ask you what days work best for, I know, like, again, you guys have jobs and that, so what's a good afternoon? And the reason why, we can do it in the evening as well, but you have to pay all the staff overtime if they're in here in the evening. So the afternoon works really well for the one with the staff. If you don't need all the staff there other than myself, you pay me to be here in the evening, so, you know, we could have that one in December in the evening to make it easier for you. But that first one should be, an afternoon on the 23rd, 24th, or 25th.
I would prefer the 23rd.
23rd?
Personally.
So a Tuesday?
Yeah.
That's the one day I can't make it.
Okay.
I prefer the 24th.
Wednesday?
I got a dentist appointment,
This is the hardest part about
Yeah.
scheduling meetings, you know.
unless this is fixed first, maybe,
Yeah.
might be all right.
What's the timeline, what are we expecting, 5 hours?
Probably 4 at least.
4, yeah,
Maybe
we're gonna
not.
start at 1 and we're gonna hammer through till, 4:30, last time was 4:30, 5 o'clock. We tried to get everybody out of here.
I'm flexible.
I can be flexible.
So you said that,
Well, if it's 1 to 4:35, I can do Tuesday.
that Lyle can't.
Lyle can't.
Lyle. I'll give you just a record.
Thursday, I have a committee meeting at 5:30.
I can't do
Oh,
Thursday,
Oh, at Okotoks.
the 25th, I can't.
What about the 24th? Oh, Judy's away for,
Yeah, I'm going to the dentist, I had a tooth pulled and they're supposed to take the stitches out, but I'm having issues, so that might be canceled, because I'm going down, it's next Wednesday.
oh, okay.
Do you wanna try it for the
Should try it
24th?
for the 24th?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get that changed, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
so this is one of those things that you can see the motion is scheduled on XX.
I'll make
So-
that one.
So if 24 is the day, and now council could also, pardon me?
Judy's gonna move that motion to have it on
Judy,
the 24th.
You could also, and I don't know if you'd like, because we don't have another meeting before then, you could also schedule the next committee of the whole meeting as well, if you like, as part of this as well. And that would be on either Tuesday or Wednesday, the 7th or 8th. And we can do that one in the evening if you like, or,
I could do the 8th.
What about everybody else?
Yeah, Wednesday's best for me.
So the 8th is the Wednesday, so.
Yeah.
do you wanna do that in the evening, that one?
The only problem with an evening is, well, I mean, it's not a big deal, I mean, I'm not sure how the rest of you, but, it'll probably be again another 3 or 4 hour
Yeah.
session, so if you do it,
Afternoon works well for me.
if you do it in the evening, you know, it's just that some of us wake up at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning.
Anytime Wednesday.
Yeah, so
You guys good Wednesday? The 8th?
Wednesday, okay, the 8th,
In the afternoon?
What times?
Do you wanna do the afternoon or do you wanna do evening?
doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
I'm flexible, you just tell me.
You're sharper in the afternoon, I know that when it
I
comes to
think it
budget.
matters to Will.
Yeah, Will's gotta take time off work as well.
We can probably do the afternoon.
Okay, so we'll do, approve a committee of the whole meeting, to be scheduled on November, 9th. There's,
December 8th.
24th, November
No.
24th.
November 24th.
Yeah.
And what time's that one?
You should put this in your calendar.
I'll send out invites for everybody on these, and that one will be at 1 o'clock.
So I don't need to put all this stuff.
Karen, will you put those numbers in there for me?
I did,
And
and
then-
put in a second motion for December 8th,
And we could just do,
and that.
a committee of the whole,
Meeting for scheduled for December 8th.
Is that okay, Judy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
November 9th, and then, you could do 2, you could do that as December 8th. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just do it all as part of the same motion. if you
Yeah,
want.
That was what
I'm
Judy
just
said.
adding it. Yeah.
And Judy made that
Yeah,
motion?
Judy made the motion.
And the 8th is as well at White Camp.
Well,
Yes,
yeah, we'll do
we'll
it
send
at
out
one.
an invite.
Like I said, we'll try to make sure that everybody's got it.
Thank you.
A decent amount of time. You're gonna have a couple weeks to look it over, and again, it's an interim budget.
But still,
So
it's
it's
nice to have a good quick kick at it and go through it, and you can ask the department heads their rationale of why they recommend or.
Yeah.
Okay, so any discussion on Judy's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Oh, okay, it's the 3 are in favor, and Karen's just generating it now. Okay, it's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to committee reports. So on the committee reports, they usually are ones that are sent out or you forward from your meetings that you're on. They usually are agendas and minutes, and then Karen generates them and puts them in. So the first one is FCSS's September 23rd board meeting. Any questions on any of the stuff? At the last meeting, Georgia Lee would have gone through all this stuff and had probably mentioned most of it. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll move on to the food bank, and this is where Joan had said that there's the 3 organizations that they have underneath it, but the 2, the FCSS and the food bank, so they're generally done on the same day, one back to back. And but they're 2 separate organizations, so they generated. And again, George Lee, being our rep, would have come back and told us the majority of what was going on in this meeting. Okay, if no questions, we'll move on to the Vulcan District Chamber of Commerce. So these ones go from their October 21st meeting, and probably most of us would never have heard about it because it's was generated after, and the main one probably is they're hoping to have their AGM set for January 19th, most likely on Zoom. I'm sure they'll probably Zoom it. Okay, any questions on that one? Okay, moving on to mayors and reeves. Again, this one here comes directly to the town, so those are the things that she captured from the event. Again, it was done by Zoom. Okay, moving on to the golf course, and again, Paul would have been at the meeting, and when he was at the meeting, and he would have brought most of the information back and of what they had on for discussions.
Judy's there now.
Yeah, Judy, go ahead, Judy.
I can let you know where the fleet motion, where we got more equipment. I thought they had the equipment all lined up. I thought we had new equipment come in. So I said to Duke, I want to see all your new equipment. He says, this is the old stuff, but he keeps such good care of everything that actually these were 9 years old, and we usually sell them before that. And people think that, oh, the golf course makes a lot of money. We have in the last 2 years, but we've been working on a deficit since I think that back 9 was built. And so now we're able to do a 5-year plan where we can start making improvements to the golf course and keep it running. So I just thought I'd update you on that.
Okay. So any questions on any of those 5?
The golf course is looking for a new pro,
For a new what?
a new pro?
Yes. You know somebody?
No, I was just wondering. Saw that.
Or a general manager?
Oh, so, Gord is no longer back?
Yeah, he retired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was his choice. He had 1 more year.
Sure.
Okay, so any questions on those 5? So what we'll do is, what we recommend is that we receive this for information, and then we'll go on to the council reports. Okay, Will?
Yeah.
Okay. So Will moves the committee reports as information. Any discussion on Will's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The 3 unfortunates have voted in favor, so it is carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we'll go on to council reports. What I do is I'll go around as they're listed. So Councillor Magnuson?
I've had no committee meeting since our last meeting, but I will have MPC tomorrow, so I'll try to record for our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for now? Okay, thank you. Councillor DeVoe?
Went to the Water Commission, set up the committee head and vice head, and talked about the auditors and quite a jump in their costs, so we talked about that and directed Kathy to go back and see if she could negotiate a lesser fee, because it was quite a jump. And she liked the people that she was working with, and but all in all, it was a very interesting meeting. I talked to Kim today over meters were brought up, and so I asked him about it this morning, and we're about what'd you say, 100? 100 meters that aren't working in the town, and somewhere, and it's 50 grand to replace them, so it's an expense, and we'll have to do something about that, I think, because that's lost revenue, and we're gonna have to do it anyway, so we've gotta find that money someplace, I think. I'll have to deal with that, I think, because we're losing money, because we're just, I asked Kathy, I said, what are you being charged for? What was it, 12 cubes? Yeah. And I said, what do you think we're average for? She said 36, so we're losing, it's only what, $1.75 a cube or something, isn't it?
Yes.
And so I thought, well, you know, it's still $500, you know. So we're gonna have to, you know, find some money for these guys to get this done.
So these, I guess faulty meters, they're on dwellings, are they, or are they on?
They're a
So-
town problem.
So 10 years ago, if I could interrupt, sorry. About 10 years ago, we replaced all the meters in town. There was some issues with a few of them that came from the factory, so they did give us some warranty on them. That, of course, that period has now elapsed. So replacing a meter is $500 for us to do. And we have approximately 150 that aren't,
150.
depending. We have some that are having battery issues that is a separate thing, so some will read 1 month, won't reconnect. Not very commonly, you know, we still have 1,100 accounts, so it's still, but it's upwards of 10% that we could have faults on. Sure. So what we're trying to do is to come up with a look at the replacement, but you know, 100 meters is $50,000. So we need to come up with a plan. Again, right now, we bill per cubic meter that comes through it, because we have ones that we know are faulty and they weren't getting any bill at all. We implemented the minimum 12 cube that used to be there for anything that doesn't read, just so we are generating some kind of revenue from the ones that weren't. But again, there's some that for a single house, for a single guy, may not use the full 12 cubes, so that guy's paying more than the family of 4 that could be using. So it's imperative to get it fixed. Well, it's gonna come up in your budget stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Because it's $50,000 is not something that we just add to the operation budget, so it's something that we need council to have a consideration on, whether we pull it from reserves or do we do it over the next 5 years? Do 25 of them a year for the next 5 years, or if they keep failing at the rate that they've been failing the last 2 years. So we're going to bring a proposal. Sure. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it.
Anything
So,
else, Richard?
I think that's pretty well what we had there, and I'm actually looking forward to it. It was quite interesting, actually. So
Sounds good.
that's about it.
Any questions for Richard? Okay, Councillor Smith.
Don't have much. I've got my first meeting for the Community Futures on the 25th, and I'm excited for that, but other than that, I have nothing to say.
Okay, thank you, Will. Councillor Sanderson.
I actually had a meeting the night after being sworn in, Marquee Foundation. So it kind of brought, there was quite a few new ones, so he brought us up to date. Gloria, I don't know her last name, do you know Gloria?
We,
Who is CAO of the Marquee Foundation, or PBL, Pierre Lodge. Shouldn't use acronyms, because nobody knows. And she couldn't come because her cook had quit. So she was kind of stressed out there. So since then, we've gotten some emails from her, and we're informed that Elaine Koskal, I believe, came in and to work as head cook for PBL until they could get staffing measures in place. But in that time, Alberta Health Inspection came out on October 29th, and they said, gave great reviews on how clean the kitchen was and organized. And there were 3 staff, 1 home care worker and 1 RN that did test positive for COVID. No residents or any other staff, they caught it quick, were symptomatic. Gloria had some rumors come back about different reasons why, and that there was residents and everything else, and that was a shit show in there. And they found the source, I don't know how they did it, but they found the source, and he's been reprimanded. And so when in doubt, go to the source if you hear any rumors. And two of those 3 staff have already returned to work, and the tentative outbreak lift will be lifted November 13th. They currently have 35 residents. They've really brought the residence level up, so that's encouraging to hear, because it got pretty low.
Yeah.
And there used to always be waiting list.
Yeah.
And that's it.
okay, any questions for Judy? If not, thank you. Councillor Coffey.
The only meeting that I had was with the Health and Wellness Foundation. Besides myself, Jody Gateman is the new rep for the county. Their biggest concern is the fact with ambulance services, they're kind of very, very concerned. They wanted to know what the town is doing about it. And I said, I've only had 1 meeting, I don't know. So that's one of their biggest obstacles right now, and also trying to get a joint use agreement in for the community space and to find out when they can start actually utilizing that. They are currently working on fundraising. They've raised $12,000 through their auction and $21,000 through their pledge drive, and their goal is to raise $100,000 this year. And they are also doing trustee recruitment. They have a couple of new members, and they are trying to focus on what they are calling Project Wellness. And so they're getting their terms of reference together first before they kind of lay that out to the public. Yeah, so that was about it.
Okay, any questions for Barb? Okay, if not, thank you. Councillor Dunham.
I attended the November 4th rec committee, or meeting, I guess. One of the topics brought up was the arena situation with COVID, whether they were going to switch to Rcmp or stay the same. I guess it was, they're going to stay the same for now. So that means no food, beverages in the building. There's capacity on people coming in or, Another thing mentioned was the proposal for, or I guess a future proposal for new courts, or I guess I'm not exactly sure, sports courts or whatnot. They're waiting on engineers to gather data on potential sites. Another thing brought up was new programming. Barb actually has a pretty interesting possibility of the ballet, Alberta Ballet, was it?
Yeah.
Coming to Vulcan and kind of using our facilities to put on shows and whatnot. Yeah, and I guess other than that, there's a few members moving on. Will Kristlovich and Dave Monroe are moving on, so we'll be looking for new committee members. And that was about it. Unless Barb was there as well, so maybe I'm missing something.
No, I think that was about it. And New West Theatre from Lethbridge,
Oh, okay,
bringing them in too.
yes.
So.
Any questions for Cole? Yeah, on the replacement of those members, I think we need to have our discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we did have the discussion about the rec committee possibly on continuing, so. We're continuing to work with the county to get the rec agreement back, so we can move that forward.
Okay, thanks, Cole. Okay, moving on to me, the only one I had was mayors and reeves. We had approximately 35 people on Zoom. There was 2 MPs and 3 MLAs that were in that 35. There's a lot of new council mayors and reeves at the table. They elected 2 of their new chair and vice chair. I honestly can't remember who they are, but anyway. Jim from the, with the SouthGrow, he spoke quite a bit. And also the Highway 3 twinning was another one that spoke quite a bit. Anyway, the minutes will come out as soon as they're generated for the next meeting. We meet once a month, it's usually the first Monday, or the first Friday of the month, but depending on where the Friday falls. Other than that, that's the only one that I've had. Sewa is still working on their projects. We have a presentation at the AUMA conference, and so there'll be some information that'll be generated and developed for that meeting. We did lose our vice chair, which was our project lead, so we're trying to kind of scramble to see what we can do to, he had a lot of information that he carried. And I think that's part of the problem with a lot of organizations is that, you know, if you lose some of your key people, you know, how much of brakes does it put on your project to move it forward? But anyway, that's pretty well it for me. Any questions for any of the ones that I put to it? If not, we need somebody to move information, the councillors' reports. Judy? Okay, any discussion on Judy's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. So the 3 hands are went up.
Listen, hey, I got it.
Oh, did you get it?
I think I did.
You did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can go for her and see how it goes,
Yeah.
or,
I've got a whole bunch of them now.
okay, yeah, so it's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the activity list, action list.
Okay, so council's all had a chance to review this. What we do is we keep a running list of outstanding motions that you've had a chance to go through it. You can see we accomplished everything from the last meeting. There are some things that are outstanding. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do anything with the rates and fees bylaw until you actually see the rates and fees bylaw, which will be closer to the December 13th meeting. And the what Cole talked about with the sports courts, there's a motion from council for us to, for their administration to take that and get an actual development plan and a cost estimate for it. And that's what we actually had a meeting on Friday with our engineers and a company that actually builds these facilities to start putting together a plan for us. Sorry, sometimes it's a little hard to read on that. The Art Society obviously hasn't brought back anything for their inventory and that. We still have the outstanding motion for looking at the 40-kilometer-an-hour bylaw change for our community. That's something we'll talk about in the planning side because that started with a previous CPO, and of course we've had some requests for different things. So council had made that motion to work on that. We'll work on that from a planning side to see if that's something council wants to continue to move forward with. Obviously, nothing has been done, and we haven't heard from the group that was looking at putting the bird of prey in town. They haven't brought the patent back, so is sitting outstanding, and Andersons have not purchased their equipment yet for irrigating from the lid, so we haven't put together an agreement for that, so. I won't go through it in that much detail ever again. If you see it there and you have a question on it, please ask, but if not, this is just so that you know what we've been working on and what's still outstanding. If you're happy with that, I can move on to my CAO report.
Sure. Any questions on them? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the CEO report then.
My CAO report, a simple bullet point of what I've been doing since the last council meeting. Obviously didn't put in the stuff for the organization meeting other than putting the documents together and actually attending the meeting. Things of note on there, I've been working with the developers. We had our auditors in, we ran the election, we did the inaugural meeting for you guys. We've arranged for the facility tours, your training. I've been working with the Whispering Creek developer, looking at doing some development in Whispering Creek. I've been talking to a developer doing development on the Fairways Drive. We actually have a meeting with him tomorrow afternoon for possible recreation rezoning. Did quite a few phone calls with minor hockey, and that those of you that are involved in it know that there was a survey sent out what other communities were doing, what we're going to do here, and the survey that minor hockey came back with, it was lose-lose for everybody anyway, because it came back 60-40. Either way, 60% or 40% were going to be mad, and of course 40% or 60% that wanted it one way or another wants you guys as council to make that decision. NAM's currently going through that right now, and they actually are still allowing groups to do both. And the reason why, again, I reached out and talked to President of Minor Hockey several times over the last couple of weeks, and really what it comes down to is for all the groups being skate club, minor hockey, and the Lakers that are the biggest users of our facility, is allowing them options. The province gave us 2 options. We gave those options to those groups because not everybody wanted the same thing. Obviously, even minor hockey inside themselves are split 60-40 on it. So this allows every group to make a decision and to have that opportunity to use the facility the way they want to use the facility, not. And so Bonnie also did some research and reached out to the neighboring communities on what they're doing, and the majority of the small communities are doing exactly the same as what we're doing, and most of the largers are going strictly REP, and they're hiring security and they're charging the teams for them. So it's but we're kind of in a bad spot, you know. If the province makes one set of rules, it's easy, but when they make 2 sets of rules, somebody's got to be the bad guy in there. And right now, we're just letting the teams make those decisions for themselves. Will, you had a question on that?
There was just a comment. Most arenas that I've gone to that my team's played in, they've been under the RAP program, and that's like Picture Butte in the smaller towns.
Yeah, and again, when we talked to Picture Butte and them, it was up to their team whether they did that or not. So they're letting their groups do exactly the same,
right?
The same thing.
I was just in Manton on Sunday for an Adam game, and there was security, so I wonder what that cost them to.
There's an article in the paper about
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think that also, it's important to, note that I don't think our recreational department needs to be like, you know, the police at the door. You know, I think that that puts a lot of weight on them. And a lot of people are blaming the recreational department for whatever's happening at the arena when it's actually AHS.
Yeah. And the province has set the rules, set the guidelines, and we're trying to follow them, and we left those options available, and that's what the majority of other facilities are doing.
I know for hockey, their rec isn't doing it, it's the parents that are doing it.
No, that's what I'm saying, but.
I think for a private, like I've rented or I've been
for
to,
private.
I think it would be incumbent on the rec department.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So formal meetings of interest, obviously we talked about it, Tom and I met with the grade 9 students and actually did a presentation here in council. Obviously, because of COVID, they couldn't do their normal trips for learning about government at different levels, so we did as much as we could here, as Tom said. They asked good questions, they really did. They had us here for a full hour asking questions. It worked out fairly well. We have the council chamber set up similar to what we do for the election as well, so they can see what that process is like as well. We did a recreation agreement review with the county before, obviously before the election, and we're still waiting back to hear on what their discussions. They were going to take it back to their entire council for discussion. So the election referendum, we've got all the paperwork done. There's no recounts or anything happening, so we're just going to hold on to the documents, and we have been given notice that we can destroy in January. So that's all pretty much finished. Everything from my returning officer standpoint is filed with the province. So obviously did the org meeting, and I met with Alberta Emergency Management Agency, and I do apologize. You're going to learn a lot of acronyms right away. If you ever do need to ask, it's just for the purposes of my reports. I put in all the acronyms just to keep it quick. Alberta Management Agency, our Regional Emergency Management Plan Review done with WebEx. We have a partnership with the county and all of the villages to have a Regional Emergency Management Plan, because the onus that the province puts on us for emergency management plans, they are just not something that a village can sustain. They want full exercises, and some of them don't even have enough staff to keep a plan in place, let alone keep it up and do annual reviews like the province wants completed. So what we did is we joined all in one group. It took us 5 years to put that together, I believe. We got it together. They meet with us now. They did this one virtually, and at the end of it, they patted us on our back on how well we're doing. So obviously that partnership is really working out well. And obviously I was out of the office from the 26th to today. It was the first day I was allowed out of my house. It was kind of neat walking down the back alley. And I do thank everybody that helped their kids have a Halloween and all the things that were in there. We had really good support from the community.
Okay, any questions for Kim? And none, we'll move on to development clerks.
Rita's report is just a bullet point of the permits that are out. Very, very quick and easy for council to read. Development, building, electrical, compliance, gas, utility, business license. It's a really nice overview of what's been going on for a month.
Okay, any questions on that one? No, we'll move on to public works.
Stu puts his report together and basically tries to categories which correspond with corners of the budget, so that you kind of know where he's at with everything. So facilities, obviously depending on the time of the year, pool and the arena. Obviously we are working on the deficiencies for pool. You guys have had a chance to read these. So streets, the one that he really bugs him, he ordered paint in March and we still haven't got it. So it's looking, well, obviously we've had our first snowfall, so there's a good chance that our paint order when it comes in will be good, and it will possibly save us 10 grand next year. So Corthius was in doing trees, water and sewer. The water treatment plant, the reason why we bust that out of water and sewer is because of course that's a contract, and it's nice to know inside that we have our normal contract for operations, but in that report then he lets you know if there was extraordinary things that are outside the contract, like Shawnee was in October 14th to repair a leak on the water line. Those are things that fall outside our contract. If it's done during regular hours during the day, we don't charge the commission anything for it. But if it is an overtime or an emergency, we bill that time back to the commission. So parks, he's going to put the caps on the baseball fences next year. cemetery, obviously irrigation is done, equipment. Again, we tendered and approved the purchase of a skid steer for this year. We also, he's going to be bringing back, we're gonna do a mower, that'll most likely come in the new year. Now, we were gonna do it this year, it was scheduled for this year, but because of the skid steer, moving the skid steer up, we wanted to see where it fell in there. We got it tendered, awarded, and now they're saying their delivery is until March 2022. Of course, we already had our skid steer scheduled to go to auction, so we sent ours to the auction. It will be, the auction ends tomorrow, and Rocky Mountain Equipment was good enough to supply us with a skid steer until our new one gets here, with no strings attached to maintenance or the amount of hours. So they felt pretty bad because they had a tender to supply by a certain date and they don't have it, so. Personnel wise, obviously the arena, guys had some issues the first little while. And of course, again, trying to understand whose role it is, you know, and it's really hard for the guys running the Zamboni to be chasing guys around to not be in the stands or wearing masks or, so trying to figure out what that looks like. It's not a good job for anybody, whether it's a volunteer parent, whether it's a hockey team itself, whether it's the recreation department, or whether it's the guy who's running the Zamboni. Like, it's just not a good thing for anybody. And then, yeah, golf course line, he's been helping keep that out, and then the hydrovac and the line out at the airport for the new hangar that's going in. And obviously, you guys have seen the amount of utility work going in for fiber optics. The county put a new line in up to the Tri-Services building, and Axia put in a new line back to the water tower here to do some upgrades there as well. And I believe Axia is putting a new line in down behind the county as well. They have that work scheduled as well. Stu's been working with them for that.
Is that what's going on by Napa there?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. What it is Axia put in all of the original underground for the fiber optics. They sold some of it off to TELUS, and of course now don't have access to it, so now they have to put in some of their, some newer, and it works out for them, they put in some newer updated lines as well, so. As you know, if you sell something to TELUS, you don't ever get it back.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions on Stu's?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to community services.
Bonnie's changed her report to go straight to a bullet form, very similar to the rest of them, just basically stating some of the business that she's been doing when she's in and out of the office and the meetings. One thing that when the tourist center is open, we'll try to give those numbers for who's through, and then again, as we figure things out for the recreation, with the changes with the agreement, we'll also, there might be some changes in reporting for, you know, programming, attendance, those sort of things. I know her reports used to be very, very thorough, but they had lots of numbers in there that sometimes didn't mean anything to anybody else, so.
Okay, any questions on Bonnie's? Okay, if not, we'll move on to peace officers.
Peace officer report is very straightforward. She basically, obviously for FOIP reason, can't tell you the tickets she's giving out and the bylaw enforcement that she's doing, but very, you know, if you've heard of a complaint or, you know, somebody says that they, you know, talked to the peace officer and about a dog, you know, you can generally see in the reports what was done with these. And again, just trying to keep you informed of where she's at and plans for what she's going to be doing in the upcoming. She's got a JFO, which is a joint force with the Rcmp. She's got a really good working relationship with the county, the Rcmp, and Fish and Game right now, and so she's been helping them out. They've been helping her out, and it seems to be working very well. We've had, surprisingly, very few negative comments about our peace officer, which is refreshing.
Kim, The ticket she writes, do we get that income?
Yes, yes and no. So the province gets their portion, obviously, because it has to go through to the provincial courts.
Right.
And so they get a portion, they return a portion to us, anything that's written within our jurisdiction.
So do we get a percentage, or is it just on the number?
Yeah, it's a percentage based on what the fine is. So if you went and fought a fine and they lowered it, then we would get the percentage of whatever they lowered it to. Or if it's the full ticket, then we get the percentage of it. And it's a healthy percentage, but it's not.
And it comes back in the income side of the bylaw.
Yeah, you'll see it on the budget and the
Okay.
bylaw side.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Gabby's? Okay, if not, the fire department's got two, one for September, with the numbers, and then one for October.
And Peter's reports are very straightforward. Numbers, they, as you can see, they look the same from month to month, other than calls. And one of the reasons why the highlighted is, of course, AHS won't tell us when the fire department gets called out to back up the ambulance, because the ambulance isn't here. So one thing that we ask them to start doing, if at all possible, is if they do have a call, that they know that they're going out solely because there isn't an ambulance in our community, can you highlight it for us? So they've been doing that for a couple of years for us.
Okay, any questions on Peters? Okay, hearing none, we need somebody to file these reports.
Lots of hands, that's how, holy cow.
Okay, Cole,
Getting close to the end of the meeting.
Cole, any discussion on Cole's motions? Hearing none, we'll call the question.
We can see. Hey.
Well,
Well, we got Richards in. Eventually we'll get them all working. No, held up all the fingers that time.
no, nothing came up in mind, but I'm in favor.
Oh, you're saying come up?
No,
So
no.
Richard gets to and you don't.
Yeah.
Where's the Wi-Fi router?
Yours says on here.
Should work.
Okay, so it says carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we have one more motion, or two more motions really, or three more motions here, but the next one is to go in camera, or in exec closed session, closed meeting, for land purchase application under third-party business interests under Floyd Action Section 16.
I'm not sure if I do this now or before, but my Magnuson Realty's on there, should I excuse myself or?
Yes,
Yes.
you can do pecuniary interest at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Lyle leaves the meeting at 8:30 or 9:39 for pecuniary interests.
Sheila.
Okay, so we need a motion to go in closed session. Barb? Okay, any discussion on Barb's motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Oh, mine popped up.
See,
It's because Lyle's not allowed to vote.
Yeah.
You must have a number.
Okay, so it is carried unanimously. Okay, so we're now officially in camera, so Kim will.
Okay, you're back.
So Bill moves that we move out of in camera, or closed session, sorry, closed meeting. Any discussion on Will's motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? It's carried unanimously. So now we will invite Lyle back at 10:11.
Oh, I thought you were, I would laugh.
Okay, so Lyle, so now we're out of close meeting. We need a motion. Richard, were you gonna make?
Yep, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so
We want the motion read aloud, that town council approves the proposed land purchase agreement as presented and directs the CAO to negotiate the sale of 182 Jameson Road and 411 Second Ave Northeast on behalf of the town.
okay, so any discussion on this motion? Yes. Okay.
No, we can't.
No, I was apologize.
You don't vote on that motion,
Yeah.
because you're pecuniary interest.
Okay, sorry. So,
You
okay,
still declare that.
okay. Kind of actually maybe too soon. maybe.
No, we can hear the motion, you just can't vote on it.
Okay.
Or participate in the discussion.
So do I press abstain?
No,
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 Karen will take you off.
Oh,
Okay.
so, sorry about this procedure stuff.
Sorry.
Okay, so any discussion on this motion? If not, we will call for the question. And it is carried unanimously. Well, yeah, unanimously, because Lyle can't vote. Okay, and so we need one more motion to adjourn. Oh, Judy,
That's a good meeting.
any discussion on Judy's motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
It's carried unanimously. Okay, so we're now officially done. Thank you very much.
Good meeting, guys. Good meeting.